Hello and welcome to the Super Show podcast. This week I am your host, Alex Jones, and I am joined today, as usual, by the wonderful, the awesome Jamie and Chris. Say hello, guys.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for
hi.
having me, Jonesy.
Yeah.
Or should I say Alex Jones?
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
Can
That
you
is my name.
Can you do this podcast in like not the Alex Jones voice, but could you do the rest of this podcast like the J. Jonah Jameson podcast on Miles Morales and Spider-Man?
Definitely not. Like, I would love to be able to, but no, I'm not, I'm not awake enough for that, and B, I'm not angry enough for that, so unfortunately not.
Wow. Okay.
But thank you for everyone for joining us. We are a gaming podcast. Let me get that in there quick before it goes off the rails so you know. We are available on all major podcasting platforms. I'm talking Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, but we are also now, for the last few weeks, we've been on PaisleyRadio.com, so you can check us out online at PaisleyRadio.com every Thursday at 10 p.m. Thank you very much for Paisley Radio for having us.
Oh, yeah.
We've been enjoying it.
It's a good old time. If only
it's been great.
If only the listenership on Paisley Radio was as big as our viewership on YouTube, we'd probably be laughing. But there you go.
Do you mean? I think you mean the inverse to that. If our viewership on YouTube was as big as our listenership on Paisley Radio,
It's the same thing, just the other way around.
I think you said the reverse.
I'm also tired, Alex Jones.
Fair enough. Do you know what? Now that I might have completely messed it up, because yes, unfortunately, if anyone who's watching this on our YouTube channel, because yes, you can actually see our little mugs if you go over to youtube.com/Super Show Pod. But I sort of messed up this morning, boys, didn't I? Because I was supposed to be here bright and early at 10:30.
Yeah.
And I slept in. And you had to call me, and it was 11:05 that I eventually woke up.
Yeah, I kept on saying to Jamie, like, don't worry, Jamie, he'll be here in 2 minutes.
Yeah, and we even joked about the fact that, see, if I'm usually not there for something, it's a safe bet that I've slept in or I've missed an alarm or something like that, and you're going to have to wake me up. But with you, we were saying, because of the kids, because of the family, that you don't get that luxury. There's no way you were sleeping in, and yet you somehow proved us wrong.
Not normally, yeah. There was the Game Awards last night, so we're actually recording this on Friday, which we don't normally, which is the day it goes out. But the Game Awards were last night, and in the UK they finished at about 3:05 in the morning, and so I managed to get incredibly tired. And then my wife, being as lovely as she is, thought she'd let me sleep in, and she sorted out the kids and everything this morning.
That's nice.
Which meant that I got up and was like, "Thank you so much for letting me sleep in. I was supposed to be recording the podcast half an hour ago." So I probably should have mentioned it to her.
And then just took your time to have a shower instead of just rush here with your man gunk in your.
So look how bad I look now. Anyway, imagine how bad I would have looked had I not got ready properly. Like, it would have been a travesty. But hey, if you want to reach out to us, you can get us over at Twitter or at YouTube at Super Show Pod. So please do hit us up. But there is a special group of people who already know where we're at, and they support us regularly every week. Week in, week out,
Amen.
Rain or shine.
Amen.
And they are our Patreons who support us over at patreon.com/Super Show. And I think it's about now that we should give a shout out to some of those incredibly special people.
Hell yeah.
I'm talking about AIM, Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy, Brett Z, Hacksaw Book Reed, Jesper Camdell Nielsen, Javella Cujo, Leo Merger, Lonnie Thompson, Martin Skihan, Mindful Pig, Nathan Pears, Scary Omen, Sean Kennedy, Starfall Kid, and Zach Cream. And the four big dogs coming in hot. They are Freddie K. Official, Manuel Guerrero, Peaswad, and The Dude Abides.
Nice.
You are all absolute legends, and we thank you very much for supporting us.
Yeah. So a bit of a conundrum now, fellas. Because last time there were 2 names, now and then there were 3 names with old Manuel Guerrero, and now, Jesus Christ, now there's a 4th one.
So what you're saying is you've not only lost both your testicles, but both your biceps too? Is that where this is going?
Yeah. Corporate sellout, just, that's how it goes. So well done, Freddie K. Official.
I think.
When are you having the tattoos done?
Yeah.
They're on there already, buddy. They're already there. Yeah,
okay,
they're already
Well,
there.
can you show us?
No, they're microscopic.
What, the balls or the tattoos?
Hey.
Both.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have a real problem when there's a 5th name on that list, because I don't know what part of your body you're donating next. But
Or just like down the shaft.
Well, I was going to say.
It's going to matter about who it is, because if it's Jesper Camdale Nielsen, I think Chris is going to run out of real estate.
Mate, come on.
No, it's going to be one of those things where someone sees Chris's dick and is like, "Why'd you have a tattoo that just says JKDN?" And he's like, "Well, when I get hard."
Yeah, when it gets harder. Jesper Camdale Nielsen.
Sorry, Jesper Camdale Nielsen. We're not just picking on you because you have the longest name of the patrons that we've got.
But you know what I'm going to do? Maybe this will be a stretch goal, but I will tattoo
Pun
the
intended.
names. Hey, I will tattoo the names around like the circumference, right? Instead of like down the length of it, the circumference, and it'll be like in South Africa for rugby, it's the Curry Cup, you know, or I think the Stanley Cup in America, where each time there's a winner, the name gets put on there, but eventually they've had so many winners that they have to get another little plinth for it to attach to the bottom and just get higher, and then eventually it's like this little trophy on this massive kind of like stand. It'll be like that.
Can I ask you a genuine question? And it might not sound like
how big is
genuine. No. Fucking hell. No, it was, how much would a patron have to pledge for you to get their name tattooed on your body at the place of their choice? Genuine question.
Okay, I think starting bid is probably about $1 million.
Okay.
Strong. But it's also like different body parts will have different,
like huge life-changing territory straight off the bat.
Well, yeah, because you're changing my life, right? Because guaranteed, no one's going to say, "Oh yeah, why don't you tattoo your name on like the crevice that has never seen sunlight ever?" You know, like it's always going to be like, "Yeah, put it on your fucking forehead or on your dick or on your balls."
Well,
or something.
fair enough. If it's a forehead tattoo, then yes, you need to go right to the deep end.
Yeah, but I reckon for $1 million, I could manage it. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, different body parts, different price ranges. You know.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Like, because I was going to say, if Athletic Gravy wanted the words Athletic Gravy like on one butt cheek or something like that, I'm probably down in like the 20 grand territory, 15 grand.
Wow,
That's still a lot of money. Like 20 grand is still a lot of money.
Yeah, but for someone to get a tattoo, they don't want to get of your name on or your internet name.
You see, if I was the person who was buying that, I'd kind of have to stipulate like that's fine, that amount of money, but you have to do a social post like every month showing off the tattoo in
Me again, just a reminder for anyone out there who didn't know. This is the tattoo I've got.
Jonesy, that would be great.
Do you know what? It depends. It depends what the name was, and it depends, where it had to go. I'm probably at like, I'd probably about 20 grand as well with you, Jamie, just because I feel like it would be a good story as well. Because I don't have any tattoos, so people say, "Have you got any tattoos?" I'd be like, "I've got one," and it's because one of our patrons pledged 20 grand.
Can we do a bit of an auction here? How much would you guys require in order to have hot panic tattooed on your eyelids? So hot and panic.
Can you do eyelid tattoos? Do they work?
Yeah, sure. You could tattoo anything, dude.
But it's so thin.
You can tattoo your fucking eyeballs, dude.
I know someone who got tattoos on their heels and they started to disappear.
Yeah, because I guess the skin.
I thought you meant the heels started to disappear. The tattoos started to disappear.
Yeah, they only had the front of their foot. They just fell over every time they tried to walk. It was really troubling.
Maybe we should move on from tattoo talk.
That sounds painful, to be honest.
All right. Okay. What about like?
Sounds horrendous.
What about the Post Malone under the eyes? Hot panic.
No.
Oh, see,
like
like
$1 million quid.
That's the thing. At that point, you need to bear in mind, like, as much as it maybe shouldn't be. That's up. Well, actually, everyone's gonna has a right to have their own opinion on it. But that's something that could stop you getting a job one day.
Yeah, true.
You know.
What about on your knuckles? And it's hot P and then Anik on the other one.
Like maybe 100 grand.
That seems like a good thing. The knuckles aren't too bad. But look, I hate to pull you guys away from tattoos on knuckles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what we're trying to say is thank you to all of the patrons and all the people that watch and listen. Thank you very much.
Go join the Patreon.
So we're going back to our old show format for this week purely because we have two big news stories to talk about. So we thought we'd go and do our comment of the week and do a quick catch up with what we've been playing and then roll straight into the first news story. So anyone who's expecting us to news story at this point, or actually even before this point, is going to Yeah, don't be confused. We're not mixing everything up, going back to how we are.
It's related, though. It's related, and it's well worth it, so stick around.
It's relevant. So, first of all, though, I need to do a quick comment of the week, and this one is calling me out hard. Because this comes from P.A. Felton, who says, I love this podcast and continue to comment despite never making comment of the week.
There you go. Well, there we go. You've made it now. Big time.
And that's the end of the comment. So.
No. There's a lot more.
He says, everyone has a bad take now and then, but Jonesy's Samus rant is his worst take ever. The reason Samus is iconic is because she was the first major female platform protagonist in a game series that defined 3 console generations. I don't play Fortnite, so I don't give a shit about if they add Socks the Cat skin from Socks the Cat Rocks the House. But the same reason that people got excited about Samus is the same reason that people watch the new Bill and Ted movies. And as great as Bill and Ted was, it's the best, at its best, Metroid was better. Bold, capital, bad take.
What I really like about this is that they didn't just call you out for a bad take. They also related that bad take to something you actually like in Bill and Ted.
Yeah, they did.
There's a lot of research that went on in that comment. I like it. Also, a thumbs up for mentioning Socks the Cat Rocks the House. That was Bill Clinton's cat, and then remember they had that it was a cancelled game or like a vaporware game where it was all about Socks the Cat in the White House, I don't know, shooting things or whatever.
Vague memories of that from the ATG days that I don't really recall. That's what ATG is to me now. It's just these distant memories were that sounds like a video game I've talked about in a VO booth.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thanks for the comment, P.A. Felton.
Indeed.
And congrats on making the comment of the week.
Well done. I'll give a quick response because I say P.A. Felton is fair enough. Fair enough. I was a bit too harsh on calling out Samus. I think what I was trying to get at, which I didn't do very well, was the fact of the way that they show a logo or just the idea of a character coming back, and then people lose their minds for it and don't stop talking about it for forever. But gaming is replete with that sort of stuff, so rightfully called out.
As we're about to find out.
Yeah, I will. I will give that one to P.A. Felton for.
Wow.
Fair enough.
A rare omission of wrongdoing.
I think I was too harsh in my criticism of Samus. There's absolutely fair enough that people get well into one character, and I can understand why. It's the thing for me with Samus and with Metroid Prime, and that was the length of time since the last game came out, and then you go, well, how long is it? Then people get all excited. But I do the same thing with certain characters and some things. As they said, I did with Bill and Ted. It was probably 30 years, 25 years, and I was still super psyched to see that movie, and did see it and loved it. So there we go. So I want to hear what you boys have been playing this week.
Oh,
shall I step in and volunteer myself to go first, just to for reasons that will become clear very shortly, because there's one game this week that I haven't played that I think once I hand over to you two will dominate much of our discussion this week.
Frog Fractions 2, right?
Frog Fractions 2, exactly, Chris. Well, I don't know why you spoiled it. I was intentionally beating around the bush, and you've just put your dick right in it.
In the frog? Holy shit.
In the bush.
You're supposed to put your dick in the bush.
Yeah, you got to push the bush, dude.
Push the bush.
Come on, Jamie.
Yeah, push it in the bush.
I've never heard the expression.
Well, hold on, dude. If it's a burning bush, you don't go in there. Come on.
Yeah, don't do
I
that.
thought you especially go in the burning bush.
No, because that sex is on fire.
I don't know. You can see the Prince of Egypt then.
There we go. Teed me up. All right.
I'm going to get this out of the way quickly as well, because most people won't care.
Hey!
Basically, they finally released the next-gen versions of a bunch of EA sports games. They were delayed after the release of the consoles. So that meant the PS5 version of FIFA 21 came out. And I just want to say that they haven't done much to the way that game plays, but for the first time in ages, they have really done some really impressive work to the lighting model. And combine that, get this, is a weird one, with a change to the camera the game defaults to for the in-match presentation. And the result is, in my opinion, for the first time ever, I think one could feasibly confuse, from a safe distance, FIFA 21 on PS5 gameplay for real football. There you go, there's my hot take. Again, you'd have to be someone who maybe isn't that familiar with either and watching it from a safe distance on the right display. But you know that old adage of like your mum walks in and goes, "Why are you watching this?" when actually you're playing it.
Yeah.
That has never been more true than with these next-gen consoles. I think the same probably goes for NBA 2K21 and maybe Madden. I haven't seen that yet, though. Jonesy, you're pulling a face.
Oh, only because, like, my mum would have said that about games that came out like 15 years ago. Is this real? Like,
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Weird when you say someone who doesn't know what they're looking at, doesn't know what they're talking about, and from a distance.
Does your mum have cataracts?
That like I remember when we've talked about this before when Mortal Kombat, the original Mortal Kombat came out, and people were like, "It's photorealistic." Like,
No, I guess what I'm trying to say is that there is that running joke, isn't there, of like someone being like, "Oh, why are you watching basketball?" And then you're not.
Although,
I just
Jamie,
think that's never been more likely to happen.
Yeah.
Yes,
Although
Chris.
I've been seeing some talk on the Twitters saying that people don't really like the look of next gen FIFA 21. And specifically, I think they put it up to like, what was it, like FIFA 2012 or some shit like that? And they were like, why does FIFA 2012 look like better than FIFA 2021?
That's interesting. I haven't seen that specific comparison, so I'd be curious to look that up and see what it is.
The screenshot that I saw was like the probably true to life, isn't what you were saying, in that FIFA 21 just looks so realistic, but it just kind of looks washed out and uninteresting and unremarkable in almost every single way.
Like the real world. It's part of the problem with games is this is the thing when everyone talks about like being, because we, as if people don't realize we bang on about it enough, we are all editors. And one of the interesting things about being an editor is you quickly realize that real life isn't that interesting.
Yeah.
Like if you want to get colors and like white balances and stuff to match the real world, things aren't that great. It's why you add things like grades and you change saturations and you change contrasts, because the real world can be kind of bland, not much going on. And I think that's one of the problems you have with games and movies and things, is going down that route of ultra realistic sometimes isn't what people are after, and it's why you end up with interesting graphical styles, interesting looks, creative.
Yeah, Joe, I'd be really curious to see that image as well, to see what specifically they were kind of focusing on. I guess. Look, I haven't really been out there when it comes to the FIFA 21 reaction, so I don't actually know that much of what people are saying. All I can give was my honest initial reaction when I first booted up this next-gen version of the game, and say that it was specifically the changes to the lighting model, and in some cases, some of the quality of the character models themselves, especially the players that had real face scans.
Right.
That stuff just looked much more natural and photorealistic in a way that I think FIFA hadn't before. FIFA always had almost like a filter to it that I could always distinguish from a very safe distance. Unlike something like PES, which I actually thought was closer to the photorealism angle in recent years especially. And I think FIFA has closed that gap. I will also just say that the DualSense support in that game is also really surprisingly cool. First time I've experienced. Do you remember we always used to talk about that idea of what if the trigger got harder to pull?
When
players had low stamina and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right.
That stuff is kind of interesting in practice. It doesn't always work, is what I'll say, and it's a very strange experience when. Not to get too deep into the football side of things, but you bring on a substitute, you've got a player with low stamina and a player with high stamina, you press L1 to change between the two, and essentially what's happening is in a second, the right trigger on the DualSense is going from high tension to no tension, and you actually hear like a weird click almost from the controller as it quickly adjusts. That was a little bit odd, having almost like a clack in the background of it, because you're asking so much of the DualSense. And I'm also just not sure how I feel about that feature. I think they might have slightly overdone it. But the haptic feedbacks on making contact with the ball are well done.
Yeah.
And I will also just say, Chris has sent me this picture. I think that the screenshot that's being used to represent FIFA 21 here in this particular image that Chris has sent me, it's clear that in the move towards trying to create, it's exactly what Jonesy said, trying to create a more like realistic look for the game. They've ended up with something that's a little bit more washed out, far less saturated. But I personally still feel like looks closer to real football.
Yeah.
I mean, the picture you said, Chris, I would say, yeah, the one on the right looks better anyway.
And I'll also say, like,
FIFA 12 does not look better than FIFA 21.
Sorry, it was FIFA 17, to be fair.
Oh, 17. Yeah.
It's all, but it's also like I feel bad doing this because I know some people are just listening to this. But if you guys scroll down from that tweet, there's a reply with someone who's taken some photos of his TV, and like there's 2 screenshots, one of a player, one of a match.
Yeah.
And I think if you click on the left image, the one that's of the match, that's what the game looks like to my eyes now. And you might be able to see what I mean when I say that it's easy to confuse it for a real match.
I think I can see.
So I think they've done I think they've done a good job, basically.
Okay.
Long story short, for what was a free upgrade version for a game that actually came out 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Bodes well for other games that may or may not be waiting for next-gen upgrades that come out months after release that may or may not seriously need them. And talking of games that may or may not desperately need patches to fix their current or perhaps even last-gen versions, I think there's one particular video game, I don't actually recall the name of it, it's a sort of low-key under-the-radar title, that you two might have found some time for in this past week.
Yeah. Maybe.
I don't know what you're talking about either, Chris.
I don't know. This is just a hint, but if only one of you decided to, I don't know, wear a jacket or sit on a chair with this game's logo on it, then I might have more of an idea of which video game came out this week.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, we jokingly said before this that talking about video game people that do podcasts or do have magazines or whatever, or channels who talk about games who are obviously influenced by the fact that they're part of the environment and they get like free stuff or they get whatever. We are not that. Let me point this out.
Most definitely not.
We're not that. Chris is rocking his CP 2077 jacket.
Oh, hold on. Hold on. There we go.
Reversible jacket, mind.
There you go. It is reversible. Good old.
Chris has put that on specifically because he's had a great time playing Cyberpunk. So
maybe.
Well, mate, I'm assuming.
And Jonesy, what's your excuse then for sitting on that chair for the past 2 months?
No, his wife bought that chair. It wasn't even Jonesy.
My wife bought the chair for me. It wasn't me. I wanted it. She bought it.
It was a gift.
It's a sick ass chair. That's my excuse.
Yeah, I get that. I think there's some interesting things to unpack with the name of the game, which is Cyberpunk 2077. There's some interesting things, and I really want to kind of get stuck into talking about it. And I know, Jonesy, you've played it, I've played it. Before we get into that, though, can I just give a quick shout to the continuation of my playthrough of Miles Morales? So I haven't finished it yet, and now that Cyberpunk's come out, I don't know when I will be able to finish it, but I'm going to try and make time.
You won't have to make very long.
No, I know. The more I play the game, it's
Burns going mental. Yes, sorry,
I still like it very much, and I do think, just personal preference, that I prefer Peter Parker Spider-Man over Miles Morales Spider-Man. I like the wow.
Okay, that's the criticism Jamie levels whenever someone says they
straight into it. He was even pointing his finger at the fucking camera.
Subhuman scum.
Subhuman scum. No, I like it. Look, I like the improvements and the venom powers that Miles Morales brings to it. But I don't. It's something about it just feels a little bit kind of bare.
Okay. I agree.
And funnily enough, last week was something, Jamie, that you said you kind of had a criticism about the original Spider-Man, which was that they almost threw everything in the fucking kitchen sink because they had like what are they called, the Insidious 6 and all of that shit escaping from the raft, and it led to fucking Dr. Ock and blah 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 blah. Yeah. But I kind of feel that like Miles Morales has gone the complete opposite direction of it, right? Where it's like, oh, you have Rhino in the beginning, and then it's like, meh, here's fucking Taskmaster. Oh, no, Tinkerer. To be fair, it might change because I'm still, playing the game, but I don't think it changes that drastically. And I kind of feel that like maybe they could have added more variety, and they don't necessarily need to have made the game bigger or longer to have had that variety in it. That's
fuller.
Yeah, fuller,
It's like you've bought one of those pre-done sandwiches from a supermarket and it looks all meaty, and then you open it up and then the meat and the filling is just around the front.
Yeah, you don't want a bigger sandwich. You just want some more stuffing. Or it's like you're making a cup of tea, right? And you put your tea bag in, but you don't let it steep and you take it out straight away. It's like, it tastes like tea, but it's like, could be stronger, you know.
I get what you mean.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I'm still really enjoying it, and I'm glad that it exists. I personally don't have a problem with the price point for it, for what it gives you. But yeah, I just think as a package, it may have benefited a little bit more from being a little bit more robust. And in a weird way, this is my jumping off segment, I kind of have a similar-ish feeling on Cyberpunk.
Okay, interesting.
Right.
Okay.
But now we're getting into the meat.
We're going to get into it, but I think maybe, Jonesy, I mean, tell me what you think. Do you think we should just cover the SuperShow, the Cyberpunk review stuff? Because I think when we talk about it, we can probably go back to some of the things that they were saying there.
Yeah, okay, we can tie the two things together for sure.
Yeah.
There might be a better way of doing it. I guess we can sort of relate it. Rather than just both talking about like what we think of it and then getting into it. So yeah, let's go on to the main thing we need to talk about is.
Hold on, sorry. Can I just point out that if you're listening to this, I've put on my Cyberpunk lights, different background.
Yes, if you want to check out Chris's jacket or his Cyberpunk lights, head over to youtube.com.
If anyone picked up the free pair of 3D glasses we sent out in the last week, you can put them on now and.
Just a bit of I've ticked the chromatic aberration tick box. That's all it is, right?
It's a neat look.
Yeah. Anyway,
yes,
sorry.
but,
not worth interrupting you for. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. So 8 years in the making, Cyberpunk 2077 was finally released this week after two delays. So originally it was supposed to be released like 6 months ago, or over 6 months ago. Then they pushed it by another month. And so it finally came out on the 10th of December. And was released all around the world at the same time, which was a nice touch that they did. They made sure that everyone got access to it at the same time. I think it was effectively 12 p.m. GMT, 12 a.m. GMT,
12 a.m.
Thursday morning, and then that rolled out the same for everyone across the world. Which was I don't know, some games don't do that, I guess, but they made a really big deal of it, which I think Jamie's put on a face.
For a game this big, it kind of had to be, right?
Jamie's doing this face.
I'm trying to remember the last game that came out earlier in other places. I guess time difference is the only thing, right?
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, so that's what I mean. Time
but
difference. They made a point of going like it releases at 7:30 here, 12 here.
I guess
8 here.
They saved us from all the annoying Reddit posts where someone goes, "By the way, it's out in New Zealand." It's like, I don't care. I don't live there. Fuck off. Shut up.
Oh, you say that, although we used that fucking New Zealand workaround to get access to a game earlier than we would have.
Yeah, actually,
ATG days.
Thank you, New Zealand.
But so there was a little bit of weirdness going on.
A little bit.
CD Projekt Red in the release of Cyberpunk. So we started to see reviews come in, and obviously people who'd been playing the game, who'd got early versions of the game, wanted to put out their reviews. Fair enough. CDPR also put out some marketing stuff, which basically said some people are going to get their hands on the game early. If you release anything, we will come down on you with like a huge legal team and framework. Yeah. Which was kind of interesting because they sort of preempted anything like that to say, hey, look, you get a copy of this game early, we're going to beat the crap out of you online. Which was interesting for them to go that route. But do you know what? I'm going to try and not be cynical, which some people will say that's unfair because I'm cynical about everything. Ooh. I'm going to try not to be cynical, and I'm going to say that it was, as they said, because they wanted people to enjoy the release. Well, you know. In that sense, in the sense of they didn't want people to break in. Just
because I know you've got to get through what you've got to get through and you don't want arguments to start now, but I think...
We can talk... fair enough.
That's generous.
It is generous. We'll get into it because, that is actually very generous.
Do you mean they didn't want us to see the base PS4 version of the game before the base PS4 version of the game came out for spoilers' sake? Oh, it all makes... Please, no, continue.
I was talking more about the people who weren't supposed to have copies of the game. I think it's different when you talk about...
Some people, like, honest to God, got sent retail copies of the game early and tried to make content and got takedowns.
Yeah.
But see, I actually don't have an issue with that insofar as...
It's only when Naughty Dog do it that it's a problem. I forgot.
No, I don't have a problem with Naughty Dog.
I'm not. I'm sorry, I'm not even addressing you at this point. I'm just. I'm leaking, Jonesy. I'm leaking.
I see.
Oh, wow.
But what I thought was actually particularly bad was the embargo they placed onto the outlets they had sent copies to on purpose for review purposes.
Agreed.
That to me is much more pernicious because that is like those guys can't do their jobs if you embargo them from footage and things because they can say bug, but then what do they really mean?
And I'll interject and say some people, for that exact reason, or essentially refused to do their jobs and said they would not publish reviews until they could use their own footage.
Yeah, I think Skillup said that, right? He was like, "Oh, you got to wait because it's bullshit."
Exactly.
I mean, I think he's right. I think he's absolutely right on that take because that was. There's no point doing a review and saying, "Do you know what? This is good. This is good. This is good." Showing good stuff and then going, "But I had some bad stuff," and then not being able to show it. So just in case people weren't aware, so yeah, effectively they had an embargo which said that outlets could review the game, could use the footage that they'd been given and people had already seen, and they could talk about their experiences, but they weren't actually allowed to show. I don't think anyone had a console version anyway. People had asked for console keys and they hadn't been given them. It was PC only versions that were released for review. And then you weren't allowed to show anything outside of a very specific set of stuff.
I think they even supplied them with additional B-roll and said, "Hey, this is what you can use."
Which is very standard fare, isn't it? It's the very standard thing for them to do is to say, here's some B-roll, here's some stuff.
I mean,
we've had that as ATG.
The B-roll is standard, but what's not standard is saying your B-roll is not actually your B-roll. Your B-roll is your fucking A-roll. That's all you got to use. You're not allowed to use anything else. It's not standard saying you can't use your stuff. You have to use this stuff.
Almost the only time we ever got writing that suggested that there were bits of footage that we could not use was when we were doing sponsored content. That was when they would specify that.
But even then, like if for instance, we got sent a review code of, what was it? Far Cry 5, right? And they would say, oh, you can show this chapter and that chapter, but don't show the menu and don't show the overworld map.
Yeah.
And that I completely understand because they're like, we haven't released that info yet and we want to just keep it under the hat so people can experience. Like, fair enough. When they put that kind of a stipulation on it, it's pretty much inconsequential. It doesn't matter if I don't show people the fucking overview map of Far Cry 5 because it's not, doesn't mean that the game is good or bad. It's just an element that they want to keep hidden until release. That's fine.
And to go back to what I referenced earlier with Naughty Dog, that did happen with The Last of Us Part 2, where we didn't necessarily know why at the time, but specific chapters were very heavily embargoed all the way up to release. And at the time, it was controversial. Now we know, for story reasons, there are reasons that you don't show the back half of The Last of Us 2 to players before they play it themselves. But at the time, they got some stick for that. And for reference, like Naughty Dog didn't say, hey, you can't even use your own gameplay captures of the first half of the game. That was all fair game. But they embargoed story elements, which I'm sure CD Projekt Red was somewhat trying to do with their decisions around this. But obviously the side effect of this is what Jonesy's getting into now with, not being able to show the negatives you're talking about, as you mentioned.
The strange thing as well, why it doesn't make sense with a game like Cyberpunk is because it is such a it is a branching game. There's so many different ways to interact with certain elements and story elements and side quests, in that you would end up with loads of people's recorded footage being very different from each other's, and it wouldn't necessarily even be spoilerific. Whereas something like The Last of Us Part 2, like you could have given away entire parts of that game by showing a very limited amount of stuff, and there was only one way to do story elements. So I think it's even less justifiable in the case of a game like Cyberpunk, because it's not even like, I might play the game and have a character do one thing, you might play it and have a character do something completely different. So well, it's not completely different, but so let's crack through a couple of points.
Let's just get into the meat of it, Jones. Like we're going at a snail's pace here.
We are. There's a lot to talk about.
We're firing things over the top of one another, and
we've got at least an hour and 20 minutes to go yet, so don't worry about it. So the game it came out and it had very positive reviews across the board from the early places that released it. I mean, it still sits around a 90 on Metacritic, which is very good. Like that is not bad by any stretch. Given some of the issues that we'll talk about, it's actually, I think, even more impressive. The 90, because you justifiably could mark this game down, I would say, on that scale by like 10 points or so for some, for bugs and things like that.
Potentially, yeah.
There was a couple of lower reviews that came out. I think one was from VentureBeat, which was a 6 out of 10, and one from GameSpot, which was a 7 out of 10, which caused a lot of backlash with the channel specifically that I'm subscribed to, which was the Quartering.
Oh, you subscribed to him as well, you scumbag.
Yeah. I've been subscribed to him for a couple of years.
Oh, you scumbag.
But whatever you think about the Quartering, like he had... He released a video that got a lot of backlash because I think he was responding to the reviewer from GameSpot, who I think is called Kaylee Paggy, I think her name is.
Yeah, so the 7 out of 10 one, right?
Yeah, the 7 out of 10. Where is it Kaylee or is it Carly?
I think I might be right in saying that it's Callie Plaggy.
Plaggy.
Can I just say something before you carry on?
Sure.
Okay. Don't want to kind of wade in and defend anyone just yet, because we'll get into that. But we do realize that a 7 out of 10 is a decent score for a game. Never mind if it's a decent score for Cyberpunk, but for a game, a 7 out of 10 is fine, right?
No, but okay, but you've gone down the rabbit hole already.
Pandora's box now, Chris. You've asked Jonesy to dig a little deeper on a Quartering video.
Well, not even on a Quartering video. At a 7 out of 10, like so. Everyone out there will probably know, but just in case people don't, the way that the game's grading works is complete bullshit. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Totally,
a 7 out of 10 is like a failure. Like, often you'll have money for studios from the publishers tied to how well they do and like on Metacritic scores and averages of scores. And if you're not hitting like a 90 or like above an 85, you will get less money for the game that you've put out. And you get this really weird dynamic where a 7 out of 10, right? If someone said I was 7 out of 10 hot, I would be insanely happy with that. But in games, a 7 out of 10 is like a slap in the face because it means that it's almost like someone said, you made someone a meal, they ate it, and you went, how was it? You were excited to hear, and they went, it's fine. Like that, to me, the 7 out of 10 is like it's fine.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a diss, but you don't want to give them a lower score because maybe that'd be too much, but you're not going to get into the 8s, the 9s, the 10s of the world.
Well, the weird thing about, it's GameSpot, isn't it? So
it's GameSpot, yeah.
The weird thing about how GameSpot kind of tier their reviews is saying that 7 is a good game, because they've got this weird thing where it's like, 10 out of 10 is essential, and 9 out of 10, what do they call it? Like fucking perfect or some shit. It's all a wanky kind of scale that they've just kind of arbitrarily kind of put on themselves.
But so they're good. Like, for example, 7 out of 10, good. I mean, that should be true, right? That should be like, should I buy this game? It's good. Yeah, I'll play it.
So I tell you what it is. So 10 is essential, 9 is superb, 8 is great, 7 is good, then 6 fair, 5 mediocre, then poor, bad, terrible, and abysmal.
Like, so if someone gave a game a 5 and you said, should I play it? And they went, it's mediocre. You could see people going, a mediocre game. I could play that for a bit.
Yeah.
If you get a 5, you're getting fired.
Yeah. Like when someone tells me when a new game came out and the critical consensus was that it's mediocre, I expect to go on Metacritic and see an average in like the 60s or maybe low 70s.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Which is skewed, which is a bit scuffed. Like,
yes.
Like a 70 out of 100 average from critics is not mediocre. It's good.
Yeah. Anyway, we digress. So what did this reviewer say about...
So let me give you a little background because it's a bit of a weird one. Basically, GameSpot did their review where they critiqued a lot of the stuff in the game, and it was completely fair. Like, they talked about bugs, they talked about the way some of the elements in the world work. They talked, they reviewed it. It was a completely fair review.
Yeah.
Surprisingly low. I think a lot of people were surprised by how low they went. What happened was, though, they then put out a video which was sort of very much in the style we're doing now, where they had 3 people discussing their views on Cyberpunk, and it was like a 40-minute video where the reviewer, she actually went into some more detail about what she played, what she liked, etc. But she kind of flagged a few things that she didn't actually do in the game and that she outright ignored. She even said about how there were certain potential side quest options where the people would say, come and do this over here. And she was like, well, I'm not, that was help the police and I'm not going to do that. So I just drove the other direction. And I think that kind of rubbed some people up the wrong way, because it was like, you're missing out whole sections of the game, like crafting, she said, I think she never got into. And it came across as a little odd, and I think, and this is why there was a bit of a reaction, and the quartering specifically reacted quite harshly because he said she hadn't even played the game. She had. I mean, she'd played like 50 hours of the game. I think the only reason she hadn't finished it was because she had a bug right at the end, which meant that she couldn't fight the final boss. But she, all intents and purposes, had put a lot of time into this game. I think it was a bad shout for a GameSpot to come out and have a video where she says, I didn't play this, I didn't do that. She says like she didn't buy any cars, she didn't go shopping for clothes because she was perfectly happy with it. It just came across weird. But when you play the game, I kind of get some of the points she was talking about now. Like,
yeah, but hold on. I mean, I got to be careful, right? Because on the one hand, you don't want to sound like some kind of a cyberpunk simp, and on the other hand, you don't want to sound like, I don't know, the quartering who's just fucking hates everyone. But for an average person playing the game, I can totally understand missing certain elements of a game because it doesn't resonate with you. And it's a bit difficult to kind of remove the person from the reviewer because obviously they are intrinsically linked. However, I would say, and I know that online there have been many like discussions back and forth on this, even with what's his name, Brian Altano, kind of like defending the reviewer. But in my perspective is, and I'm not talking from the perspective of a YouTuber where it's a single person doing what they're doing. I'm talking about specifically a big publication, a well-known publication like GameSpot. I would kind of expect their reviewer to review pretty much every big aspect of the game. Now, fair enough, helping the police, maybe not a big aspect of the game as it turns out. But crafting, I mean, if it's got enough to dedicate an entire section of your menu, your sub-menu to get into it, like fucking go through it. You don't have to like it. And then just in your review say, I did it and I just didn't like it. But don't come around and say, I didn't do it. Like, so I think there's a certain expectation that needs to be placed on reviewers.
I'll offer the other side of the argument because I don't know if either of you two did, but in my sat at home not playing Cyberpunk 2077, I watched the entirety of that 40-minute discussion that they put up that she made a lot of these comments in.
Yeah.
And when she was able to elaborate on them beyond what appeared in the review, the argument she tried to make is that she tried to suggest that the reason she hadn't engaged with some of these mechanics or ideas or sort of optional objectives and side content was not because she didn't want to, or she just said, no, fuck it, I'm not doing that, but because the game failed to make them important or relevant enough to what she was doing. She didn't buy, Jonesy said she didn't buy any clothes. But she didn't buy clothes because she constantly found that she was picking up clothes with higher armor ratings that were of any than anything she could have bought. She didn't need to go to the store and buy new clothes.
Right, yeah.
She didn't use the crafting system because as soon as she looked at the crafting system, she was like, I've literally got over 100 healing items. I don't need to craft any more healing items. And then even Skill Up in his review said, I accidentally started speccing towards like crafting in terms of the skill tree and then realized how useless crafting is. But no one's calling out Skill Up for saying that part of the game's redundant. We're calling out this chick because she called it out as redundant and then made the mistake of saying so she didn't really interact with it past that point. But it's the second half that everyone's for some reason picking up on and running.
Well, I think especially with a big game like this and as a respected outlet, what you need to do is you need to elaborate a lot more. Like Skill Up is one dude, and it you know, if people aren't complaining about his kind of take on it, it's probably because he elaborated on it more than she did.
Then why aren't we sat here criticizing everyone? Why aren't we? We've mentioned her by name. The quartering mentioned her by name. If we're criticizing her because she why are we criticizing her when we're saying that an outlet should have done a better job?
Oh, no. So, yeah. So I think that's kind of what I was getting into.
The thing, then her name shouldn't even come up, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. What I was getting into, and it's something that we actually spoke about on our WhatsApp group chat, is saying, if this is an issue, and then why didn't the editor, not the video editor, the kind of like content editor, kind of flag this and say like, hey, you know, maybe, because there's another way of looking at it. You could say, I didn't interact with it, so you just don't mention it.
Yeah. But then
was
she thought the reason that she didn't interact with it was a negative, which is why it factored into the quote unquote review. Like if the crafting system doesn't make itself vital and to the point where you don't think you need to engage with it and you see that as a negative, then that does come under the review. But then I guess there's a bigger discussion here perhaps going on where it's like when you work for an outlet that has attracts a large audience and a lot of people go to for a review, is it a requirement, I should say, that you pore over every single square inch of a video game and offer some opinion on every single inch of it? Or is it your right as an individual to play the game your way and just relay your experience?
Yeah. So this is what I was saying. The tweets coming from Brian Altano was saying, we obviously don't pore over every fucking corner of this game because it's so, especially in Cyberpunk, it's so fucking massive. And yeah, I get that. But then, I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit silly about it, but I just think like
no.
It's if you decide to verbally bring up something as, let's say, a negative, then surely what you need to do is explore that negative to its fullest if you are trying to do a review on behalf of an outlet. That's how I would see it.
I think that gets harder to do when only a fraction of the people who are happy to get angry about it are happy to watch the 40-minute long video in which you actually elaborated on it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's interesting listening to you both talk about that because I'm going to have to come down maybe right in the middle.
Surprise, the SuperShow special.
But Alex the Fence Jones.
No, but it's not that Jones is always in the middle. It's just that
he's not.
We're always like one's on the one side, one's on the other side.
It does happen a lot for us three.
Fucking hell, yeah.
So in my estimation, what happened was, right, so the GameSpot released that 40-minute long video at the wrong time because they released it before the game came out. They effectively had a video where the reviewer says, I didn't do X, Y, and Z. And it sounds like, to me, I watched that whole 40-minute video, and to me, it sounded bad. I then watched the Court Rings video, and he does take it out of context, and he doesn't talk about the stuff that she talks about that she does like about the game. He literally snapshotted some of the just the negatives that she said. But I think his sort of opinion of saying maybe you were the wrong person to review it was a pretty fair opinion based at the time on the information that I had, like everyone else, which is I hadn't played that game, but it just sounded odd to me. As Chris said, if you're going to be a reviewer, and I do think it's different, Jamie, for GameSpot, because I see them as, say, like a big newspaper. They are more, or they have more reason and more things that they have to check than, say, like one blog person who's got a blog online, because they are a big outlet and they're one of the main outlets. So it makes it a little different to, say, like one YouTuber. Having said that, and having played the game now for like maybe 6-7 hours or something like that, she's right. Like she's her what she says about the crafting. You don't need to do any crafting. The last sort of mission I did where I went into a place and I took out a whole load of I think they're Miltech people. I came out of that encounter with like, I think probably 40 to 50 weapons, of which I had like maybe 7 or 8 different guns, but I had multiple variations of each one, which I could then disassemble, sell, etc., to get components and a whole load of money. You get so many items of clothing that you just find scattered throughout the world. Like there is stuff everywhere. And the idea that you need to go shopping to buy stuff, right, is to me at the moment is completely redundant. Yeah. When I started playing it, you and I actually had a conversation, Jamie, about like look versus armor rating in an RPG. And I was erring on the side of look, and I was like, I want to look a certain way. The second I went into an encounter where I knew armor was going to be important, I immediately swapped out all the armor, all the clothes that I had on.
Yeah, you took off your basketball shorts.
Mate, I was wearing like leather effect leggings and a tank top with like sleeveless tank top and sunglasses because it gave me a higher armor rating.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. Okay,
but this is the point, right, though, because there is a criticism there, but it's also a question of how you treat that criticism and where you go with that criticism, because there is very valid points there that you could expand into its own 40-minute video.
So this was my point about the way that GameSpot released the video. If they hadn't have released it before the game was on general release, If they'd have waited a week after the fact and people would have got a chance to play it, I think they would have had a lot more people saying, oh, I completely understand what you mean, because we would have all seen, there's 8 million people that pre-ordered it or something. You'd have had 8 million people going, I don't know percentage-wise, but you would have had a large percentage of those people agreeing with her. The problem is you had a 40-minute video, which isn't that long anyway to talk about such a big game. She said, I didn't do X, Y, Z, and it sounds really bad because in our heads we're thinking of these all-encompassing RPGs and we're thinking of the perfect version of Cyberpunk, and that she's missing out huge sections of the game. The problem with that game in my mind at the moment is there is so much to do and so many elements to interact with. Like, I haven't touched crafting. Because I keep finding stuff. I keep getting like add-ons for my weapons. I found a muzzle, I found a sight. And every time you do a little tiny section, take out a few people, you've got loads more stuff.
Yeah.
So this section where I said like I'd changed all my clothes and I was now looking hilarious. I walked into the building and I found a flak jacket, another pair of trousers, a pair of boots before I'd even done the mission. And they were all higher armor rating than what I had on. So I then swapped out all my clothes again.
Yeah.
Like, it's an RPG in the way that an RPG is just goes, there is shit everywhere, and you will spend 5 minutes at the end of every battle if you get into like,
just picking everything up,
picking shit up.
Yeah. Which is weird because do you remember The Witcher was the opposite, where it's like you play the game for 15 hours. It's like, great, we're going to give you your first item, your first actual equipable armor now. Here's a picnic blanket that Geralt can wear. And you're like, I played 15 hours to unlock a picnic blanket. What's going on?
This goes, so one of the mods I unlocked almost immediately, right, with one of my perks was that I can automatically disassemble junk. As soon as I pick it up, it automatically disassembles it. And the reason I did that was because otherwise your inventory is full of shit that you don't need and you've got to go to a vendor to sell all your junk. I was like, please just let someone disassemble this so I can have crafting opponents. I haven't crafted anything because I've got 50 health kits.
I've crafted stuff. And because guess what? Like crafting health kits is like one of the 50 things that you can craft. Like anyway,
so by the end of the game, I definitely would have done crafting. I'm not saying I wouldn't. I've also tried some of those side quests where there are emergent events that you go past and you'll see thugs on the side of the road who they'll have bounties on their heads. And if you knock them out, kill them or whatever, you get the reward. And that's a good way to earn a bit of money on the side. So you might find that you go into one market and then there's a whole gang of people. And if you take that gang out, you get a load of money for it.
Yeah.
And those things work quite well, but they're quite hard to find. You kind of have to you kind of got to want to do it. If you're going from A to B to do a mission, you're going to maybe miss out some of that stuff. Someone said it like it doesn't work. I think it was in this video. They said it doesn't work as well as in RDR2 where you feel like you are forced into those encounters. This is definitely more of you could just walk by. I don't know if you felt the same way, Chris, but you don't have to get involved in a scuffle on the side of the road in the same way.
Well, I think it's almost how they frame it, right? Because all the marketing is like, oh, Night City, there's fucking gunfights around every corner and shit. And so you go into it and you think, okay, well, it's just fucking another day in Night City. Like, I'm not going to get involved if I don't want to.
And there's also too much in a small spot. Like, at least with Red Dead, it was actually kind of sparse in that respect. Like, you'd be riding your horse for a few minutes and you might come across something. In this, you'll drive around 2 blocks and you would have driven past 5 crime scenes. Yeah.
Like, and maybe that's the difference, is that those spaces in between in Red Dead kind of made those encounters more meaningful and more memorable. I don't know, like, it's funny. Like, okay, so people gave GameSpot flack for giving Cyberpunk a 7 out of 10. I think it might be a 7 out of 10 game, fellas. Like, honestly.
Wow, I didn't expect you to say that.
I know you didn't, because I'm wearing the fucking Cyberpunk jacket. There you go.
Before you say it, let me just cover a couple points. I really want to get into.
I got so much to unpack. I'm
exactly. So I don't want to just get a few things away before we do. Excuse me. Because a couple of the other issues that have arisen was the lack of availability, as we've said, of the console versions. I am playing the PS4 version on my PlayStation 5, so we can talk about that a little bit.
Ouch.
But also, the buggy nature of the game has, I think, has surprised a lot of people about how buggy it is. There have been some great little, I think Yongye did a great little, what do you call it? A montage of bugs that he encountered. And it wasn't all of the bugs. It was like that he put in one type of bug and then said this happened loads of times. But he's done a cool little montage on his channel of bugs you may encounter, and I'm sure there are loads of others out there as well. So CDPR are currently prioritizing 2 issues, and one is addressing the epileptic triggers. So someone said that the game has an issue whereby it can trigger photosensitive epilepsy in some people.
Yeah,
which
when you
don't know.
When you load into the brain dancers.
Yeah, so they have a brain dance. You wear a thing around your head. It's very much straight out of Altered Carbon, but you wear a little thing around your head, and you have like these little flashy LEDs in front of you, and they do a flash in your face to put you.
Oh yeah, it's a scientific term.
I still love that for some reason Jonesy's only frame of reference for a subgenre of like sci-fi that's been around for fucking 40 or 50 years is this one Netflix show from 3 years ago.
They have ripped off so many things from Altered Carbon though. Literally, the brain dance headset is identical.
It's literally a licensed video game. Like they ripped off themselves more often than not.
No, the headset, I mean, unless I'm misremembering, the headset in this looks to me identical as the one in Altered Carbon.
Jonesy,
you put it on,
Jonesy,
it's got little LED lights in front of you. It's just offset of your eyes.
It looks the same. Who did you try and make your character look like in the character creator?
You.
No, who did you try and make your character look like in the character creator?
Takeshi Kovacs.
Are you perhaps slightly biased towards the influence Altered Carbon might have had on...
Wow. Jonesy, do you think it's possible that Altered Carbon stole from Cyberpunk?
Given that even Cyberpunk 2077, the video game, existed before Altered Carbon did.
But it did, but could they have... Maybe, I guess they could have seen those elements. But how would they have seen those elements? Like, how would they have seen those specific elements? Because they weren't released.
Mate, who knows?
Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe it's a different film.
If only, like I said earlier, if only they had 40 to 50 years of work and media and writing and movies and TV shows in this subgenre to pull from. I don't know. But hey, I guess they must have stolen it from Altered Carbon.
I'm going to check it after this, but I swear that the brain dance headsets look, in my mind, identical to the exactly the same thing.
Jonesy, you're doing this thing that you do.
I swear they are.
You're doing this thing that you do.
What?
This is the fucking Belfry and Arkham Knights all over again.
I mentioned it as a tiny little thing. You guys have wanted to talk about it for the last 5 minutes. It was just surprising to me that it looks, maybe it doesn't look identical.
Anyway, epileptic triggers.
But here's the real point. Is that the bad guy from Spider-Man Miles Morales does look identical to Topher Grace. And I won't say otherwise.
He goddamn does. That's my theory.
And they did it on purpose. It's Topher Grace.
Venom confirmed. No, it was subconscious.
Wow, Jesus.
Subconscious.
I think that conversation might have happened off camera, so I don't think anyone knows what we were mentioning there. Anyway, yeah, epileptic triggers.
Oh, right.
But look,
my bad.
So they're working on the epileptic triggers because to remove them from the games, or from the game, which is... I think that's an easy thing to do almost by accident. As TV and film in the UK, if you put something on broadcast, you have to have it go through quality assurance. And one of the things they do is a thing called a Harding test, which is that they put it through to make sure the flicker rate doesn't trigger photosensitive epilepsy.
Yeah.
If there isn't the same thing for games, which I don't know that there is, obviously there isn't if they've put this game out, I think you could probably easily mess up on that issue by not realizing something. Because it's kind of... It's not like a major element of the game, right? It's like something that you can do. Well, you have to do once. At least.
You have to go through it once in order to progress the story. So it is a part of the game. But I think like less important than the actual epileptic trigger is the story revolving around the person that brought the epileptic trigger to light.
Right, and the weird sort of almost backlash that they got.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So another woman kind of like. I mean, another woman. She has a name, and
I can't remember it right now.
Is it Robert Paulson?
Yeah, her name was Robert Paulson.
How is that not doing God's work by saying, by the way, if you have photosensitive epilepsy, this might trigger it? Like,
this is what you'd think,
that's
right?
Not a criticism.
So she put out this, like, it was a tweet or a statement or whatever it was, saying like, oh, by the way, the game does have this. If you are epileptic sensitive, just fucking be aware. Right. And CDPR even responded and said like, oh my God, thank you. We're going to put in a warning and we're going to try and fix it and this, that, the other. And that should be the end of it. But no, what happened was the cyberpunk simps kind of got all in their heads that like she's trying to destroy their game, which they've got in their heads as the fucking messiah of gaming and the future of consoles and gaming and PCs. And the only reason that an RTX 3090 exists, like, no. And they got it in their head that she was trying to destroy the game. So they started sending her messages and on like, let's say email or whatever it is, and the headline would be like seemingly a message of support. She'd open it and there'd be videos that are meant to trigger epilepsy.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like,
What?
yeah, it's kind of like, dude, this is the scummiest bullshit you could ever fucking do. You should really just, do one of the Cyberpunk look at yourselves in the mirrors and scroll down to the little prompt that says fucking rethink your life.
Conversely, if anyone ever wants to know what they look like with no hair, you can look in the Cyberpunk mirror for that too.
Yeah, which has happened to me. But yeah, it's just kind of weird. Like, I don't know. It's the same thing with the GameSpot reviewer who came up with those things. Now, fine, I came out on one side, Jamie's on the other side, you were in the middle. But I think what we can all agree on is, like, at the end of the day, that's her fucking opinion, doing her fucking job. We can criticize it, but that's probably where it should stop. It never needs to go anywhere further than that. How many times have we gone through this year and previous years as well, covering stuff with ATG, where it's like, guess what, guys? Another fucking death threat was sent to this games company and shit. Like, none of it matters. None of it matters.
You get weird as well, though, because I think this is part of the issue is that people want to put out content out there criticizing people and talking about it and making content out of content, which I actually think is fair enough. Like, I don't have a criticism for those people who do that. There does seem to be a very small subset of people who then take that too far and then go in, like, sending videos to people that try and trigger their epilepsy is absolutely
insane. It's just kind of mad. But even just getting like super, super fucking butthurt that one GameSpot reviewer has scored your Messiah of gaming as a 7 out of 10, and that your world is over and you just need to get on Twitter and on the emails and on the fucking GameSpot forums and just denounce everything that dudes, grow the fuck up.
I kind of feel like if you commented on that video and you said, I don't agree with you, how can you say that you have a valid, or the review is valid when you've missed out stuff? I think that's fine. I think criticizing
dude, sure, like
content is fine.
Open up conversation, but they're not doing conversation at all. They're doing the classic internet thing of saying, like, I've read something that I disagree with, so I'm going to give my 2 cents worth, and then I'm going to fucking block off that fucking communication and not care about anything else unless it's a fucking echo chamber to my point.
And if you play Cyberpunk and then you think you completely disagree with what GameSpot said, I think that's then what you do is, because I've done this before, you then downgrade how you feel about their reviews in the future, and you don't go to them first. You go you go somewhere else first that you think is more valid. Because at the end of the day, like, a reviewer's opinion, a reviewer is still giving their opinion. So it's always going to be, in that.
The best thing to happen to game reviews, funnily enough, are the single person YouTube reviewers, because what happens there is you can attach to them with your opinion. And if your opinions match, and that's why you're watching him, then, when you ask a friend, do you think I'd like this game? And you're asking your friend because your friend knows your likes and dislikes. But if you follow a YouTuber who's got the same opinion as you, you know that when a game comes out and you want to know their opinion, it's going to align with your opinion. That's the kind of the good effect of an echo chamber that you can get out of the internet, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
But like, you go to an outlet, and the outlet is kind of like, I don't want to call it the lowest common denominator, because that seems a little bit kind of like unfair, but it is very much an everyman review.
It can be.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a side effect of a lot of outlets making sure they don't give major reviews that will draw a lot of traffic to slightly more niche reviewers who perhaps aren't into the genre or don't have a good track record of handling major releases and so on and so forth. Like, but there are examples of, like, I've been on record as following a lot of Giant Bomb stuff, and they're far more independent as an outlet as someone compared to like a GameSpot or an IGN. But I'm at a point now there where one of the employees there is one of my favorite sort of personalities and individuals in games media of all time. We could not disagree more on video games. And when he hates a video game, I tune it out. And sometimes I have to listen to him slag off a video game for 45 minutes on my favorite podcast, and I almost have to skip it, but it happens, and at least I've been able to identify it. And
have you not learned anything, Jamie? You're doing it wrong. You've got to go into the forums and call that person a stupid dumb cunt, and just send death threats and epileptic videos.
I can't believe I've been a bad gamer this whole time. I want to apologize to the gaming community for letting us down.
No, but
I haven't filled my death threat quota for the month, and
the point is this, right? Yeah, the point is exactly as you put it. It's like it's your fucking choice. No one is forcing you. A, no one's forcing you to watch it. B, no one's forcing you to agree with it. Like,
yeah, and don't get me wrong, I have to skip large chunks of my favorite podcast because sometimes I'll be honest. Sometimes I don't like hearing people like endlessly talking shit about something I like, and maybe that's a problem. But at least that's as far as it goes for me. Is that I sometimes have to tune it out. I don't seek these people out and try and destroy their fucking lives.
The weird thing is when, because I can understand that opinion, like, you know, because I do the same thing. I like this, although I don't skip it. I then listen to it and
I'll listen
enjoy
to it
getting
if
annoyed about it.
If it's not out yet. But if I'm 30 hours into Red Dead Redemption 2 and I'm loving it, and some guy decides to spend 45 minutes telling everyone why he hates it, I'm like, I don't really need to hear this right now.
Yeah, because I guess that's because you've moved beyond the need for a review at that point.
But also, it's like it's a one-way conversation. I'm listening to someone in a podcast format for 45 minutes, saying shit that I don't agree with, and I can't disagree. But I can't
totally like we can have a conversation right now. We won't, don't worry. But we could have a conversation right now about why I completely disliked Red Dead Redemption 2. But because you're right, because it's something that you can respond to, and we can have a conversation about it. There's much more value there.
There's also that thing but I think makes a difference is when you haven't played the game, how can you critique? To be fair, usually I think you can't really critique someone else's critique of something you haven't played when they have, because you have no idea what you're talking about. I think the thing different with GameSpot this time was because of the review they put out, it was like someone saying, oh, I didn't like this meal at this restaurant because I didn't eat half of it. And that was what rubbed people up the wrong way. It turns out that actually having played the game, she was right about a lot of the elements she talked about. Maybe it just didn't come across in the way that maybe she intended, I imagine. But let's cover the last two little things before we actually get into what we think of Cyberpunk.
Or maybe like she was having a meal and really enjoying it. Then someone brought over a side dish that obviously didn't go with the meal she was eating, so she didn't even try it. But then someone was like, well, why wouldn't you just try it?
Why don't you lick that octopus tongue that they brought you and put on the side?
Dude, you know what? Like, you can have some weird combos that on the surface you don't think they would work, but they do. So, you know, that's why you try them, right?
Because shout out to lasagna and mashed potato.
All right, okay, so let me cover off the two last things we need to mention just before we really get into the nitty gritty. But because there's a couple of things apart from the epileptic elements to CDP. I keep saying CDPR instead of Cyberpunk 2077. I keep trying to say CP 2077 and keep messing it up because they've had some music issues, boys. They originally said to people turn off the music and put the DMCA. They've got a DMCA friendly mode, is that right?
Yes,
so I haven't even looked at this. Where you can put that on because Twitch now are very dodgy when it comes to getting DMCA strikes for having music in their games. So CD Projekt Red said, hey, be safe, use this mode. They then came out and said, actually, we've realised that some songs that will still play that you can't play. So maybe just turn off sound altogether. Just mute game.
I think what you mean to say is mute your fucking dog. What is going on?
Oh, could you? Sorry, she's grumbling. She's behind me grumbling.
Anyway, No, but again, that's like, you know, shit fucking slips through the cracks. That's just how it goes. It's pretty shitty for them to say, just play without music.
This would be one of those things where, like, this would be a glaring and frustrating issue if this game had come out, you know, fucking airtight, crispy, perfect. But, like, this game, as we'll get to and discuss in more detail, came out so fucking hot that fair enough, stuff like this also slipped through the cracks.
Yeah.
Like, there are bigger fish to fry.
Rushed.
If you ask me, do I want this addressed over other stuff in the whatever the next patch is? I'd say no. There are other things to look at.
Streamers are not your priority.
Streamers can turn off music. We've got some shit to fix.
Yeah, I talk about someone who has streamed Cyberpunk. I would rather they didn't focus on turning off the sorting out the music DMCA issues. I guess they're easy fixes. Maybe they just have to license the tracks and then they're fine. But look, all of this being said, they we don't know how many games that were actually sold, but CD Projekt Red have said that there were an incredible 8 million pre-orders alone for this game.
This is
Brutal.
mad,
Crazy.
right?
And I, for one, went to pick up my version, and there were people in a queue with me who were buying the game. So they have already gone over 8 million because there were the three little fellas in game with me.
So 8 million and 3, yeah? Wow.
8 million and 3. But listen, I want to hear your opinion.
Well, hold
Chris,
on, Jonesy, because that 8 million fucking is mental to me, because my game of the year last year, Control, has sold 2 million units.
2 million
that
units
kind of puts things into perspective.
in what, and they've just had November of just gone was Control's best month ever on release.
Yeah.
So Control, a game that is still actively selling, and in some cases selling better than it ever had before, has
And
just
a great
hit 2
game.
million, and a great game when Cyberpunk is at 8 million before it's even come out.
That's mad to me.
The power of the embargo.
And explain this. World of Warcraft, the new expansion, Activision fucking trounced out a press release saying, it's the fastest selling game of all time, and it sold like 3.5 million units on its first day. But surely is that like I don't get that.
I think it's a faster selling like PC exclusive game was what I was able to somewhat read between the lines on just before we started recording. I might be wrong though.
Anyway,
but I think
we digress. But yeah, 8 million is fucking insane.
The game it overtook was Diablo 3, so I think it's like a PC exclusive.
Yeah, maybe.
So look, should we get into it? Should we talk about what we actually?
I don't know how you guys are going to structure this, but I wish you both the best of luck.
Hey, you know what? Let's just start with this bugs, okay? Because that's kind of seems to be the biggest bugbear. That a lot of the reviewers are coming and penalizing the game for, as it were. For what it's worth, I'm playing on a 1060. GTX 1060 graphics card on my Alienware gaming laptop with a Core i7 and a 16 gigabytes of RAM and a Samsung 970 Evo SSD. But I've only had 2 bugs that I've encountered playing the game up until the end of the first chapter. Right? Which is, I mean, I must be like one of the luckiest son of a bitch fucking to ever live. So one of the fucking bugs was the one where you look at the mirror and your hair's gone.
Right.
And that happened to me once.
Big deal.
Big fucking whoop. Because you know what one of my criticisms of the game is you never actually get to see yourself interact in the game whatsoever. Except if you look in the fucking mirror, which means nothing and does nothing, or in the submenus where you see all of that weird fucking clothing that mismatches that's on you. But it ultimately doesn't matter because you never see yourself in the game. But anyway, that aside, the other bug that I've had is a weird audio issue where my character V's voice is softer and has a little bit of a tinny echo compared to everything else in the game. So it's almost as if my character stood behind me about 2 feet away talking into the back of my head. It's kind of weird.
Right.
And it's a known issue. I've looked on the internet. There is a fix, but for some reason I can't fix it. And I have a feeling it's because it's going through my Logitech headphones. But if it's a known issue, I'm just hoping they patch it out. But yeah, I haven't had any fucking... No glitches.
That is incredible. So you said you're at the end of the first act or the first chapter.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not as far along as you then. I've had, if I had to put a number on it.
Okay, but like worth mentioning, as you said, you're on PS4 Pro.
No, I'm on a PS. I've got the PS4 version, but I'm playing on
PS5. Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
So some of the I haven't actually watched the video yet, but Jamie yesterday was telling me about Digital Foundry did a video and they were talking about the PlayStation 4 base version and the PlayStation 4 Pro and how that runs the game, and there are issues with regard like frame rates and stuff like that. Yeah. I've had none of that. Like my frame rate is solid.
Okay.
Loading and stuff is solid.
Yeah, because I think it was like 15 frames a second on like base PS4.
Yeah, the base PS4 version is in a really, really bad place.
And I think that is something we definitely need to talk about in a bit, but after we've talked about our impressions. But I haven't had any of that. But if I had to put a number on the bugs I have noticed, it's probably at like maybe like 100 or so.
Okay. I have a question though, because would you consider pop-in as a bug?
No, I would no, not. It depends how it comes in. If it was like a draw distance thing, or if it was something like that, then I would say no. But I would say yes if it was something that just appeared right in front of me that wasn't supposed to be there, which I have had.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
so when I say bugs, I mean like I'm talking everything, like things that I have noticed that I've gone, So because
it's funny, but I think that's actually the best way of putting it, because the one I'm worried about. We talked last week and stuff like that, and off podcast about death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
If every is Jonesy having something that makes him realize he's playing a video game, then the immersion of Night City, as cringy as that sounds, gets lost every.
Yeah, and I guess it also depends on when you say 1,000 cuts. It's like, how often are you getting those moments, right? Are you getting a moment like every 15 seconds? Because then that's not that's fucking annoying.
No, because that would be a hum. That'd be It's not a hummer. It's not
a hummer.
It's a So like I said, I've played about 6 hours. I've had 2 hard crashes where for no reason at all, the game just, the PlayStation 5, didn't reset the PlayStation 5. It just turned the game off. And then the PS5 said, we've encountered a problem. The game needs to shut down, and I've had to restart the game.
Okay.
I've had that twice. And I'm not even out of the first act. Like I've probably done about 10 missions and side missions combined, I think.
Okay.
I've spent a decent amount of time in that world. One was like, as I was having a conversation with Jackie at a food stall where he was eating noodles, I was looking around at the world and I zoomed in with like L2 to look at something and the game crashed. Another time,
I was going to say, I can confirm that Digital Foundry had that crash at the exact same point, except theirs crashed, I think, like 2 or 3 times in a row.
Wow. Oh, wow. I'm lucky that I didn't get it. Do you know what? I didn't move the camera the second time I did it.
Yeah, hands off.
I just didn't touch anything. Hands off.
Maybe that's it.
The second one I had was I was at the Maelstrom hideout trying to get the Flathead, and there was some mechs who were fighting Royce. Apologies for people who haven't played this, don't know what I'm talking about. But I was trying to sort of scope out the environment, and I was trying to see what was going on and figure out how I was going to attack these like 3 cybernetic robot things. And the game hard crashed again as I was scanning.
That's so interesting. I never got those cybernetic robots. Anyway, never mind.
Oh, it depends how you go through that mission.
Yeah, because I snapped his neck before he could even draw. Yeah, I had an option where it's like you're sitting on the couch. Sorry to just dive into it.
No, go for it.
Yeah, and it was an option because I had spec'd, I think, like strength or body or whatever it was, like really high. So I just stood up and just fucking, as a skinny blonde lady with the medium-sized boob options on the slider, I just fucking snapped his neck right off, like fucking great.
But so I had 2 hard crashes. I've then had, so the bugs I've had in general have been like, there's a thing where people might have seen it in the early game stuff that they released, whereby you find a woman in a bathtub and she's got like platinum level healthcare, and you take her out onto the balcony. She got picked up by the medevac people. They flew off, and as they flew off, it looked like someone sitting down came flying backwards past me on the screen, like someone from the carrier. But it was really fast, and I was like, okay,
that's funny.
Just before that, Jackie had walked through a door, and as he walked through the door, his gun and his something like a holster or a clip stayed in the doorway. And as he walked through, they stayed there, and as I walked through, they like zipped and caught up with him.
Oh, there was a great one I saw on Twitter where apparently people's penises are clipping through their trousers.
I saw that as well.
I've seen that. That's quality.
Yeah, I think Peaswood shared that on our Discord, and it was great.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's what I saw.
We're also getting some Mass Effect Andromeda flashbacks with reverse guns. People drawing guns and aiming at themselves.
Wow, I did not see any of those.
The first time you go into, I don't know what it's called, but where you can like detective mode a scene.
Oh, the brain dance, yeah.
Brain dance. Yeah. Apparently, someone in their first brain dance got a reverse gun within the brain dance.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. That's
like
cool.
one of the characters.
Come on, that's called an Easter egg, dude.
I mean, don't get me wrong. As with a lot of, any sort of long time Bethesda fan knows that there is a fine line between like some visual bugs make you laugh and you have a chuckle and you move on with your life. That's totally a possible way to go about this game. But it depends again on the frequency with which they happen and the kind of experience you want from Cyberpunk. And I know some people didn't want to play a game like Cyberpunk where they were laughing because their penis was visible. Some people, that's not. It's funny for us. That's the way our brains work. But for some people, that's not what they wanted.
Yeah, I get you.
But so I won't, obviously, I'm not going to go through all the bugs I've had, but I just suffice to say that there's a constant kind of every few minutes there's something that you sort of see or notice
every few minutes.
Do you know what, Chris? Sorry to interject. It's like I recommend if you want to, watch the Giant Bomb Quick Look. I know I sound like I'm shilling for them. Because I think in the first 15 to 20 minutes of that quick look, that's all it takes. They experience a bug of some kind about every 2 to 3 minutes. I remember they walk out of their apartment to start the mission where you're going to go and get the flathead. And when they walk out of their apartment, there's this thing where all these cars keep crashing into the same object and debris flies everywhere. There's someone who's like sunk halfway into the concrete. There's another NPC that's like stuck cowering and nervous for no reason. They get a phone call from some chick who's smoking and her cigarette isn't in her hand, it's floating out here. Some
classic,
cutscene dialogue starts clipping over itself. There's a bit where they meet this chick to talk about the flathead thing, and they've got a guy who's like right up in their face holding a gun at them.
Yes,
and the guy's face keeps like freaking out and like shaking rapidly. Like all of that happens inside the first 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, but you guys are everybody's misunderstanding this game. That's saying, the aesthetic.
If someone
glitches,
wants to see what it looks
Cyberpunk.
like to experience a bug of some nature every 2 to 3 minutes, and whether or not that's actually distracting,
you know, what would be really funny is
intriguing.
If I go and watch that video, I'm like, hold on a second, this is what's been happening to me, and I just thought it was part of the game.
It was part of what's going on. Yeah. But it's a general like bugginess in the world and in the environment that I've noticed a constant.
I am fucking thanking my lucky stars. I don't know how I don't
know how the hell you've not had it, but because I've had a lot.
But that may be because obviously I'm on PC and console will be like different kind of certifications, whatever, what have you. And I do have the day one patch, whereas maybe the Giant Bomb. Did they have the day one patch?
There was a bit of talk about
that quick
look. The review people they got a patch mid-review. And then some people, I can't remember who I was watching, but they basically said that they called it the day one patch. But then some people have said that there was a patch that they received, and then there was an additional day one patch.
Yeah. But other people have been saying that that day, technically day zero patch that the reviewers got, for a lot of the issues that people were having, that actually had to start again. And some of the reviewers were like, I don't have fucking time to start again. I'm not going to do that.
I think Yongye had an issue that was fixed, but he had to start a new game to have it fixed.
Yeah.
And there's also been some reports of like, I can't remember who it was who was saying it, but someone said they had a bug where when they killed enemies, all their weapons floated in midair. And that was one of the issues.
That sounds like a quality of life issue right there. I'd love it if all the stuff that you just go and pick it up from the air.
We're saving you from neck crank. You don't have to look down all the time.
Yeah. There was one time I had to pick up a body because he was sat on top of the gun that he dropped. And I was like, I've got to pick up this body and move him now just to get this gun.
I like stuff like that. That's cool.
But what I was going to say was that the that day zero or like mid-review period patch apparently claimed to fix that issue. And the reviewer in question still had the issue after installing that patch.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a situation where he would have needed to start a new game.
Yeah.
It's weird because there are...
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, there are some bugs that you as you're playing, you can just deal with. So like the little kind of random visual things actually don't bother me that much. It's more of the... So there's a few quality of life style bugs. For example, there's a few sections where you'll see something you can pick up. You go, I'm going to pick that up, but I can't because there's a character nearby who's got dialogue options. And there's a cool thing in that you don't have to go and specifically talk to people every time by hitting talk to this person. They will just start talking to you, which is quite nice. And you can leave the conversation, which I prefer, by just walking away. And then they're like, V. And then you just gone, which is quite nice. But at the same time, I can't pick up some of these elements because every time I go within a 10-meter radius of this woman, she starts going, oh, you wanted to come and talk to me, huh? And I'm like, no, I didn't. I was trying to pick up this thing. And that's quite frustrating.
That's funny.
Also, the thing of I get anywhere near her and she kind of has the same conversation, like we hadn't had the same conversation, and she just starts saying the same thing to me. And I'm like, we've finished this conversation. Go and do a better business.
But you see, that's I feel that's less... That repetition is kind of where I start to kind of falter on Cyberpunk. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
But see, what some people, I'm sure most people have played RPGs, but one thing about RPGs is they are more buggy, glitchy, worse looking in general because the way the game works. Like, they have to try and create a world that you can play in, and it almost has to be emergent. And so you're going to get problems. They don't have the luxury of some games where they know exactly where you're going to be, what you're going to be doing. You're effectively in a tiny box that you can't see. So even a game like Miles Morales, which is obviously open world, I had sections of that. I had one bug in that where I was talking to the mum in the very early game, and she's on the phone while she's cooking, and the phone was floating 2 feet away from her face. And she was there cooking. And so that's the sort of bug that people have mentioned. I had that once in Miles Morales, and it was on a closed off tiny little section of that game where you couldn't do anything else except be there. And they had one RPG element, like, a character goes and does something that you're not paying attention to, and the phone wasn't anywhere near her hand. And so you're like, these things are really hard to solve. And especially when you're trying to do a game that has the scope of Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
So for example, let me say, to give you my opinion quickly in general, and then I'd love to see what you guys say. This game is astounding, like in its scope and what it's trying to do. I already have been blown away by a lot of what this game tries to do.
Okay.
Bugs aside, like issues aside, let people not get confused. There is some really cool shit in this game.
Yeah. Okay.
So Chris, what
I was like, anything else?
No, we can keep talking about it, but I just want to preface everything back because I don't want people to think that this is just a buggy mess of a bad game that you shouldn't like be interested in, and that everyone was an idiot for giving a high score, because it is phenomenal in a lot of respects.
Yeah. I think you use me as an example to say, like, I've got mid to low recommended specs to run the game, and I don't have any bugs. So I guess it's just luck of the draw. I'm enjoying it. I'm really, really enjoying my time with it. But as I play it, and this is kind of the parallel that I'm getting with Miles Morales, is for all its style and substance, which of course there's a lot, it just still feels kind of hollow when especially when kind of put against the lens of an open world RPG, okay, where it's almost like nothing matters around me, okay? Whereas, like we said with Red Dead Redemption, like, you know, people are fucking going off on heists and whatever, and trying to blow up safes, and, you know, getting snake venom sucked out of their cocks every fucking corner, right? But in this one, it's just like there's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of things that, like, I've already feel like I've seen a lot of what Night City has to offer in terms of its just vibrancy, or so-called vibrancy, but it's all the same. It's all cookie cutter. And but on the other side of it, it's like the other stuff that they clearly paid a lot of attention to, they fucking nailed. The dialogue, the story, the main missions, some of the main side missions are really fucking cool and really awesome and fun. But there's like, the realization, as I kind of like prefaced, that I came to between last night playing it and this morning having mulled it over, this game is the same feeling I get from a Fallout game.
Yeah.
This is Fallout 4 if the bombs didn't drop and they didn't go for retrofuturism and they rather just went for fucking cyberfuturism. It's the same fucking thing, except for whatever reason, I kind of feel as less interesting as that Fallout world of what was it, Boston, as less interesting as it is compared to Night City, which is a more interesting setting. I had a better time just exploring that open world. So let me put it this way. In Fallout, it's almost like you go ahead, you do the quests, and it's the same thing for Skyrim for me. You do the main quest, you go fucking up to High Hrothgar and with those fucking mute monks and shit, and you Fosro all that bullshit, and Parthenax kind of like jerks you off or whatever, and then you go down into the world and you fucking... I stopped doing the main quest because there was so much shit to see and do, right? But in Night City, it's almost like I just want to do the main quests and the major side quests, because as interesting as the city is, it doesn't feel like there's anything for me to do. Does that make sense? Like it's a hollow fucking game. It's very much style over substance, except for the points where CD Projekt Red says this section is about substance, and then it's got lots of substance. Like, sure, but it's this kind of like weird disconnect, and I hate to kind of put it in those terms. I was very hyped for this game. I am not necessarily disappointed in the least. Okay, but I just think. I think the game that we were kind of marketed on and the game that it is, they're two different games. But the game that it is not bad at all, and I am absolutely fucking loving it. Keep in mind, of course, that Fallout 4 was my game of the year when it came out, so, take that for what it's worth as well.
It's funny because RPGs are terrible. Like, they are terrible. We, in a lot of ways, like that we wouldn't accept in other games, right?
Yeah.
But the reason they're terrible is because you let them be bad at some stuff because they're so good at other stuff.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
If you think about, like, I loved Outer Worlds, although I haven't finished it. I thought it was a very good game.
Yeah.
Fallout 3, I loved. I didn't get as into Fallout 4, although I did still really like it.
Yeah.
But I think you're absolutely right. If you took elements from Cyberpunk and you took that city away, you took Night City away, and you had little areas dotted around the world, and you had to drive here and talk to this person, drive here, it would feel like a Fallout game much more.
Yeah,
I think what they've done is they've tried to put it all together.
Yeah.
And make the world more dense by putting in, this is happening on this corner, this is happening on this corner, this is going on, this is going on. And I can see why they've done it, but the thing for me is, having played some of the side quests and the main missions, they are so good.
Yeah,
already.
They are so good. But don't you feel that, like, maybe it didn't need to be an open world RPG? Like, really, honestly, like, maybe it didn't. And I
wouldn't like it. I don't think I would like it as much if it wasn't.
Well,
I know what you mean.
Different focus. But then also, like, if I think about the RPG elements in it, and it's something that's been discussed, is like, have people made the connection that actually this is the least RPG there is? Because yes, you've got specs and you've got this, that, the other, but the weapon system just boils down to a DPS counter that you've got, right? And in fact, so much so that when you're looking at all the specs of the weapon, the DPS is way higher. I hardly even read the fucking skills of the weapons because they are so fucking tight. Maybe that's just me, but whatever. But it's almost like it's inconsequential to have it as an RPG, like we said, where you don't need to go to the clothing store to get clothes, because guess what? Everything else you pick up on the fucking streets is higher armor. So then why have that RPG element? Okay. Then the other side of it is almost like, with the weapons, you're getting 50 of the same pistol. They're called the same thing, and they have a DPS counter that's different by about like 2%. It's like, okay, so it's almost like none of the, or not none, but like half of the RPG elements in this game are just there so that they can call it an RPG. Whereas other stuff, like let's say the skills and the progression system, that's all pretty fucking spot on for me.
But then weirdly, some of my critiques around the, like, picking up all the guns and having so many weapons is because when someone falls over and drops a gun, you can pick it up. Like, you don't have to, but I do.
True, yeah.
And I didn't need to do that. But if I couldn't pick up their weapon, I'd go, oh, what a shit RPG where you can't even pick up that guy's assault rifle. And so the fact that I've got 10 pistols in my backpack is because I went around picking up everyone's pistol after I killed them. I mean, maybe I need to tailor the way I'm playing so that I don't end up with 50 different weapons by the end of one.
Let's put it this way, right? Like a good RPG should be like this: you pick up your weapons in the world, and your goons have got like the standard weapons, which is what it is in this game. And then if you take the time to step away from the main quest and the side quest and just explore yourself, and you come across this scenario that is not tied to a side quest or anything, where shit happens and there's a nice kind of scripting to it, even if it's a small one. And at the end of it, you get this weapon that is like a unique kind of thing. Or in this one, I think they call it iconic weapons, whatever.
Iconic, yeah.
But it's almost like it doesn't really work in that way for this game. I don't know, like, it's that thing that I hate in RPGs where you can go to a shop and you can buy the exact same things that you can pick up off people, and the things you can pick up off people are the exact same things that you can go off into the world and pick up the exact same things. It's almost like the variance is like hardly ever there.
Right. Yeah, I see what you mean. See, but I don't mind that as much insofar as sometimes with games try and push that too much, it kind of stresses me out because I have to decide: do I want the gun with the flame variant, or do I want the chemical variant because the DPS is similar, but who am I going to be against? Like, there's something nice about having V as a character who's got a pistol on his hip, an assault rifle on his back, and a shotgun in his hand, and you can switch between those. And if one of those guns, if you run out of bullets or whatever reason you don't have a gun, you can just pick up another gun off an enemy and you start shooting. Yeah. And again, you don't have to, they've said you can play this game through without even shooting anyone, or mostly. I get exactly what they mean. And when you get into the side quests, the main missions, that is where it shines, absolutely. And so what's interesting to me was I was going to ask you, and this might be incredibly boring for people, but the mission where you speak to Dexter DeShawn and you need to get the flathead. Yeah. How did that go down for you briefly? Because I have a feeling it's completely different from what I did.
So I don't feel too bad going into this because obviously we've seen this from their previews that they showed off, this specific scenario. So
this is all still in the game's logic. This is all still the prologue, from what I understand.
Yeah.
It's very very.
You haven't even had the late title card yet by this point.
Yeah, no, the late title card comes like fucking after Act 1 or whatever it is. So what was it? So I found out that I have to go to where the Maelstrom are holding the flathead, right? And Dexter DeShawn's given you the briefing and blah, 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 and done all of that. Then I met Jackie outside of the All Foods factory. Yeah. And then I did the optional quest to go speak to, that chick's name, Meredith, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Stout? And I went, Meredith Stout. Right, so I went and spoke to her alone, and the dude kind of jacked into my head, and he was like doing a lie detector test. I went alone. I didn't go with Jackie. So I said I was alone. But then because I was nomad, she brings out a guy who she's like, this guy's the mole. Yes. But because I was nomad, I was like, managed to convince her that he wasn't the mole, and then tried to say that I could help her. So then she gave me the chip with 10,000 eddies. Then I went into Maelstrom, had a chat with Royce. Then because I'd upped my body stats, so shit started going a little pear-shaped, but as he got up and then I got up, I just snapped his fucking neck. And then it was just gunfights from there on out. And then just like grab the flathead and finish.
Okay, so actually we did it kind of similarly in that we spoke to Meredith Stout, etc. So, but I did, so it was, you didn't even get to it, but I had a thing where like I got the chip, I then decoded the chip to take the malware off of it. Yeah. So that the Miltech couldn't track them. I then went into the place, spoke to Royce, gave him the chip, told him that Miltech were trying to track him and it was their money. Yeah. They verified it. He was cool with me. So he said, okay, you take the flathead and go. I then went to leave. You then get then Miltech bust in, and I had a fight with. I was then on the side.
That's way different, dude. That's way different.
What I'm saying, that's when it diverges. Yeah. I then was on the side of the Maelstrom fighting Miltech, and it gets to the point where the Miltech's robots end up killing Royce. Oh, and I then kill them. Yeah. So it sounds so different, like from those two perspectives, which I love the fact that you can do it in those different ways. And because I'm a corpo, I have when I talk to like people like Meredith, I know what the deal is with corpo, and I know like the corporate life, and I can sort of convince her. Like we were talking about that. You saying back as a nomad, you can convince them that that's not the dude. For me, it wasn't that at all. It was saying like, come on, I know the corporate way things go down. I know this, I know that. We can work together. Or like, I need the flathead. And then she just went along with it because we were both corporate
oh, right, people. Yeah.
And so those are the elements that I'm like, this game is...
Dude, that's where the game shines, yeah.
That's where it shines. I will say my entire experience, I said to you guys on, what's it called, WhatsApp yesterday, one of the issues I had with the game, the main issue I had with the game, isn't anything we've talked about, is how it looks on the PlayStation 5. Yeah. It's because it looks like the whole thing is had the graphical settings whacked way down. And I think the way that I described it to you boys was it seems like a really good high-end game that I'm playing through a cloud service where they've had to turn down the dial so they can stream it to me.
That's weird, man. Yeah.
And one of the reasons I'm playing it as I am on console is because when that update comes, I want it to look as good as possible. And there's no way that I'm buying a 3080 to play this game.
Yeah.
Because it's 750 quid or whatever it is, or 800 quid. So when that update comes, I can play it with ray tracing on. My frame rate's going to be high. Hopefully that game will look incredible. And I think I might start the whole game again when that happens.
Wow.
And take a different life path. Because actually the life path thing I found was a little bit of a damp squib.
Very much so. Yeah, very much so. I think
it was very brief. You were a nomad, right? You played as a nomad?
I think the intro is very inconsequential. And the only thing where it comes in is with your dialogue branches. And that's it. That's honestly all it boils down to. Like as a nomad, you've got that car in the beginning, which is like a fucking dirt rally car. You never see that fucking car again. It's like, what's the point? What, like, and there's maybe an opportunity there, right? Where it's saying like, hey, some of your like life paths things can transfer. Like if I went into Night City with that fucking dirt bike fucking rally car bullshit, like that could have been pretty cool, but it doesn't pan out that way.
So I'm interested. So where do you get the whole montage of you going out with Jackie?
Yeah. So basically the intro of Nomad is you smuggling stuff into Night City with Jackie. Okay. Like he's like your first client kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you get into Night City. And then as soon as you enter Night City, kind of the intro credits, if you will, roll where it's like, yeah, you do the montage of your life with Jackie. And I guess that's how they kind of reconcile the fact that you never knew Jackie before, but now when you get into the actual game, it's like your best friends. And it's almost like saying like, hey, you might have been in fucking Night City for 2 years for all you know, because you've got an apartment and this, that, the other.
Right.
You know?
So because I thought this is one of the things that was a little misleading. And I think people who played it said, oh, those intro stuff lasts for like a couple of hours, but it really doesn't. It's like 20 minutes.
Yeah. So half an hour, whatever.
Yeah. As a corpo, you effectively, you get told by your boss, he wants to take out his boss. And so you get told to go and recruit Jackie and a couple of other people to take him out. You go to a club to meet Jackie, and then you get some other corpos come in, and it turns out that you've been found out and they are going to go sort out your boss. And then, so you've lost your job, and you go, oh, you've lost your job. And then you get the montage. It's like, oh, this is what I was expecting. And then it goes like a year later or 2 years later, whatever it says. And then you're like into it. But
so I guess Jamie's got to do, street boy.
Jamie is a street boy.
I mean, I'd alluded before to the fact that I might take that path, and now knowing that it's inconsequential, I probably won't overthink it.
No, you really don't. I promise you that you don't.
Whatever I'm feeling like at the time.
It does affect what you can do. Like as Chris said, it does have dialogue options for later in the game.
You just both implied that you both had dialogue choices in the same conversation.
Yes, I think that's what it boils down to, and it's almost like giving you slightly different paths, but yeah, I think that's the only thing.
If it doesn't even affect it that much, that'll kind of, if you could basically say the same thing but differently.
I'll be honest, Jonesy, I don't necessarily know if it does affect everything that much.
Maybe.
I mean, there is a theme here, Jonesy. I mean, it wouldn't be.
Let's not. Until we're further into it and we can figure stuff out. Like, let's not. We'll find out.
Fair enough.
Maybe I'll play a couple of different intros to see if it makes any difference.
But I mean, we've pretty much been crapping on it, but I fucking love it. The music is so fucking banging when it's like the energetic moments, the kind of tense moments. There's this one scene, I'm not going to spoil the scene, but you're in a hotel and you're doing some shit in the hotel. The music is so fucking on point. Every time you get into the car and it plays the non-DMCA friendly music, it's fucking bangers, even though it's like, I don't know, there is some fucking Spanish caliente shit. I don't fucking know any of it, but it's fucking banging.
There's one more thing I will say, and I'm not shitting on Miles Morales at all. But
yeah.
By 6 hours, no, I'm not. But that's what I'm prefacing. By 6 hours into Miles Morales, I was very obviously halfway through the game, and I'd done loads of stuff, and it said. It said you've done.
What's the relevance of that in a Cyberpunk conversation?
No, I get what he's saying.
Because in case anyone was worried that this game is only, people have said it's 15 to 20 hours, and they've gone, yeah, you can finish the main story in 15 to 20 hours. Miles Morales is like 12 hours to 14 hour game.
Yeah.
I was very obviously halfway through Miles Morales after 6 hours. I haven't even finished the prologue to get to the main title sequence.
And don't get me wrong, like you
hours.
open up that map, okay, and I guess it's kind of counter to what I was trying to get my point across by saying, hey, if you just don't follow any fucking missions and there's these encounters that are really interesting and, you know, unique, like let's say Skyrim or whatever. But if you open up the Night City map, which is a fucking god-awful map navigation system that they've got enough fucking hate to it. But anyway,
it's so messy. There's stuff
it's so
everywhere.
bad, dude. Stuff can be everywhere, but it just doesn't help you in the slightest. But anyway,
No.
There are icons all over the place. Like, hey, you could go and like track down this bounty over there, or you can go and help the police there, or there's a mystery encounter over here. Go check it out. There's so much to do in this game. This game is absolutely fucking massive.
Yeah, it is huge.
You know, if you're looking for that game where it's like, oh, I don't have a lot of money to spend, but I need like bang for buck, fucking Cyberpunk's got it in spades.
Which leads us nicely actually onto a point Jamie made, and I think is a good question maybe to finish up this bit on. Don't worry, I'm sure we'll talk about Cyberpunk again in the future. But should they have released this on PlayStation 4, Xbox? You know, is like it was supposed to originally come out on that generation. And given what we've seen, given what we've heard, given how that game plays, what are you thinking?
Well, interesting. Look, that's a very difficult question because there's the kind of the more instinctual answer, which, you know, you can kind of give off the cuff regardless of anything else. And then there's the logistical answer, which is that I think we all acknowledge at this point in time, this being December 2020, many years after the game was announced and many years after the game was kind of like they started to build up that hype cycle again, once the game was really on track in development. Can you really cancel this video game like on certain platforms? Could they really have delayed this video game again? There are logistical answers to those questions that I simply don't have the ability to answer. I don't know. That's over my head. People who make a lot more money than me are the people who sweat over things like that. But if you were to ask me in a kind of a off the cuff reactionary internet way, should this game have come out? My answer is no.
Yeah,
This game
agree with that.
This game should not have come out. This game is undercooked, and top to bottom, no matter how good. I think I said to you yesterday, actually, in a direct quote almost. No matter how good an experience any one individual can claim to be having with this game, it's not good enough on CD Projekt Red's part. And I hope, and I think they will have lost a lot of stock with people as a result of this.
This game should have come out like, fuck man, this game should have come out. I mean, it's obviously hard to put a thing on it, but it should have come out like in the middle of next year. If they need the time to fucking sort out that majority of people can play the game and say that they did not encounter a bug every handful of minutes, then they needed that fucking time. And I think they know that they needed that time, but you know, shareholders and this, that, the other, like, okay, I can understand and I can get it, but it's not in a good place for majority of people. And as Jamie says, that's not good enough. And I agree.
It's a difficult one, but I I don't think they can ever get it into a state whereby they could release it on previous gen. I'm at a point now where
then they fucked up. They fucked up big time.
Yeah, I think that remember that rumor that was saying that the first delay was because the second delay was because they failed certification on Xbox and PlayStation. I can totally fucking believe that now.
In some cases, it should have failed it again.
Yeah. Oh, dude, if you're getting 50, let me tell you, okay, in my old Alienware laptop, which was already showing its age by the time I started playing The Division on it, and I was getting between 14 and 22 FPS, I could tell you that game was unplayable.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And imagine if every time you get in a car, every time you get into a gunfight, every time like you get down to say like 12, 15 frames a second, like I think that's
on top of that, terrible. As being the state that it is, imagine that happening on one of the most anticipated games of the year. Imagine that happening.
Not even the year, dude. Like
of all time, perhaps.
Well,
imagining it happening on a game that had already been delayed multiple times. Imagine it happening on a game that was meant to come out earlier this year at a time where the next-gen consoles didn't even exist yet. Imagine it happening on a game where they promised there would not be any crunch for employees, and yet there was crunch for employees. Imagine it being on a game that was created and envisioned, but perhaps most importantly, beyond what it was developed for, marketed and aimed at the millions upon millions of people who own what we would now call previous gen consoles. Imagine it happening on a game that embargoed any footage from the game running on those consoles, even the footage uploaded by people who got it through honest and legal means, like being sent earlier by a retailer, having that footage struck and DMCA'd. Like, everything about this, top to bottom, is an absolute fucking embarrassment, in my opinion. An absolute fucking embarrassment. And the fact that, and this is going to sound like some fucking white knight bullshit, but the fact that Naughty Dog went through what they went through earlier this year for embargoing shit or DMCAing stuff like that, and CD Projekt Red are still our best friends. CD Projekt Red are worth over $8 billion. They're the single biggest video game company in the entirety of Europe. They are bigger than Ubisoft. They're not your friends. They're fucked up. They have let down millions of people. Yeah. And I don't care if you're having a good time. I don't care if you think that people who play it on base PS4 are quote unquote getting what they should expect. They should have expected better. CD Projekt Red should have delivered better. And if they didn't, which they didn't, and if they couldn't, which remains to be seen, then this is on them. And I think it's kind of embarrassing. And I hope this is the last time we ever see the single biggest video game company in Europe as our friend, just because, hey, the last time they delivered a bad and broken game, not a bad game, I'll retract that. The last time they delivered a broken game, they fixed it. Can you imagine that being your rationale? Like, the last time they sold me a broken game for $60, they fixed it, so they're going to do it again. You've gaslit yourself.
Yeah, totally.
That was literally my thinking going into it, and that's one of the reasons why I think I've probably had a better time with it than I would have had I not thought about it in this way. But I had 3 game-breaking bugs in The Witcher 3. I was a game that I went away from and came back to because it needed so much work, and they did it. But Jamie's right. Like, not like 90% right. Some of me, I get a little bit wonky in the area just because it's an RPG and I feel they're a little bit different anyway. So look, I agree with you 90%, Jamie. I think you're accurate in everything you've said. For me, the issue is the current gen thing versus the previous gen thing, and there's a lot that is not okay with the game. All of that having been said, and as someone who has played Star Citizen and who's like put, 70 quid into Star Citizen.
So you're saying someone who's already been conditioned to accept things that they shouldn't accept?
Yes, but also to see what someone's trying to do. Like, I can completely see why this game took 8 years to come out. I can see why they've got loads of bugs. I can see why they've got loads of issues with it, because it seems like they're trying to do so much. And when you can have a game which is a full price game, which comes out, gets a 9 out of 10, and I'm not going to name any specific games to slag them off, but they are like little dinky, fun. I've played a game.
Here we go
on the PlayStation.
Here we go with the Nintendo Switch bashing.
I said on the PlayStation. But like, and that game can get like a 9 out of 10, and I can see why, like, because it works very well. People enjoy it. It's a cool game. Everyone loves it. But when you then take a game like Cyberpunk and it's massive, all-encompassing, branching, like forward-looking, kind of has all these mechanics and is insane, I do have some sympathy for them.
You really think that this game is forward-looking?
Oh, it's specifically in the sense of they've gone into the future, which means they have to try and invent their own stuff.
Because I think that the actual gameplay of this game is pretty like... I'm not going to say last gen, because it's not last gen, obviously, but like...
This is like reading a restaurant review, and the restaurant gets a 9 out of 10, and then you read the review, it said...
I didn't give it a 9!
No, I'm saying, okay, the restaurant gives it a positive review and says, the food wasn't great, but hey, they tried to prepare 12 courses...
No, but hold on. But the food is great. The food is great.
Okay, the main courses were great. The starters and the desserts weren't. But hey, they tried. They made loads of food.
Do you know what it's like? It's like, okay, let's...
When in fact, it's like going back to fucking where we started. It's like, maybe if you took the development time that the crafting system took up, or the gig system took up, where you get phone calls from people you've never even met who'd be like, hey, I heard you're new around town. How about doing some irrelevant side stuff for me while you're filling out hours? Maybe if that stuff didn't get development time and fucking fixing bugs or making full... Sorry, I'm suddenly over my own.
You're frothing at the mouth here.
I'm literally frothing. Or making sure that the console that has the highest population of Cyberpunk 2077 players got above 15 frames a second.
Yeah.
Do you know what it's like?
Hey.
Using your restaurant analogy, it's like I'm in a Michelin-starred restaurant. Mm-hmm. The very capable team have prepared a 12-course meal, and like probably 75% of those courses are impeccable and are Michelin starred. However, it's the hottest day of the year, their air conditioner is broken and flies are flying around my head, and I'm trying to enjoy their Michelin starred meal, but there's all of these things that are ruining my experience, and they're not necessarily tied to the food, but they're tied to the environment.
One of the courses is just a medium-sized McDonald's fries.
Sure,
that's great. And also, I love that.
And also, halfway through, they've had to turn the music off because they've realised they don't have the licenses for the music and playing in the restaurant.
I'm gonna do something I hate, and I might live to regret it. Because I have to be upfront. I haven't played this video game. I have not played this video game. But I will say, to describe more than one of those courses in that theoretical meal as a Michelin star quality seems generous. This, from the hours upon hours of footage I've now watched, seems like a game with a lot of really cool ideas, and I think it's going to have a lot of really cool quests, and its strength might well be in the writing, which is where The Witcher 3's strength ultimately lay, and some of the set pieces and things like that.
So I would call
the fundamentals of this game seem to have been extrapolated from what other games have been doing for the past 5 or so years of not just open world game design, but RPG game design and action game design. And they seem to be very good versions of that. But like this,
I wouldn't even say that they're very good versions sometimes. But
this every time I look at it, I see a good Deus Ex game in an open world.
Dude, it's what I said. It's a Fallout game. It's just
right. It's Deus Ex, it's Fallout, it's GTA, and blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's Skyrim, it's whatever. It's those. And
you know what? It's not much of. It's not much Witcher.
Oh, there we go.
Josie, you look.
No, I was going to say, like, but I would say one of the courses would be the dialogue and the writing and the narrative. One of the courses could be world creation, and just see what I mean. There's a lot of very good elements that are fantastic, but then some of the courses are poo on a plate.
There's a lot of heavy lifting going on in this game, where the narrative and the setting and the music and the general vibe lifts up. It fucking Josh Groban's everything, right?
What if I were to tell you that I think the atmosphere and the vibe kind of suck?
Nah, they're cool, dude.
What if I were to tell you that they have nailed the cyber and absolutely flopped on the punk, and having advertisements that say things like "buy it or fuck off" or "three mouths, one desire" are good for a laugh, but don't actually do anything in the name of world building. They're shit that CD Projekt Red thought sounded cool and don't say anything about the actual future that they've tried to design.
I think once you get into the story, you start to see that kind of stuff. But
that's a strong argument to make.
Only on main quest, I would say.
I can't count that.
I don't agree with you. I actually kind of don't agree with you at all, but I'm not very far in, so that's maybe not. And to be fair, you might have seen more than I have. Of certain
I doubt I
have.
Tried to, maybe cumulatively, but not in terms of actual content.
Yeah.
But the reason I say that is because to have a world with things that say three mouths and whatever, or buy it or fuck off, fits very well for me in the idea of it's kind of a crazy world where there are people getting executed by the police on the streets. There are open like gang warfare. There are dodgy police everywhere. There is.
But that's generally a level. Like you see it and then it goes away. Like when Deus Ex tried to do.
I don't know what you mean by see it.
Okay, so when Deus Ex tried to make a story about that's set in the future where like transhumanism is a thing and human augmentation is a thing, it tried all these. It didn't hit every target it aimed for, but it tried these somewhat more significant and broader ideas about the version of the future it's set in. Like it tried to set up the idea of whatever it called it, like the mechanical apartheid and a divide between people who have and haven't had augmentations and a lot of the story and the cutscenes fed back into the wider the societal impacts of what this future was saying, and what this future had allowed, and the effect it was having on them. Cyberpunk seems a lot more interested in attributing the odd line of dialogue or the odd billboard to those ideas, but never pursuing them. And it seems a lot more interested in shit that CD Projekt Red thought looked or sounded cool.
See, the way I got it was more a case of they went through that Deus Ex period and then they came out the other side of that. So they don't necessarily make it the focus anymore. But then when they do talk back on it, it's more like the bit that history lost, that lost on do you get what I'm trying to say? It's almost like not that it is that's what happened, but that's how kind of I see it framed as. It's like, hey, we've gone past all of that, and now it's just fucking widely accepted that everyone fucking takes their eyeballs out and shit. To varying degrees.
It's widely accepted that the personality of this city is that, hey, everyone's an arsehole, including you.
Basically, yeah. But this is the other fucking thing. It's like everything everyone says in this fucking game is like, oh, Night City, she's such a great fucking city, and she'll eat you up and spit you out if you're not careful. But yeah, the gameplay doesn't necessarily, unless you're on the main quest, the gameplay doesn't fit that either.
Interesting.
I don't even. So if a game like I haven't played Deus Ex, so I can't really talk to that. But if a game like Detroit Become Human is a game that has something to say about the future and has moral messages and has loaded things and tries to take you on a journey of like thinking about the future and thinking about technology and thinking about stuff like this, I would say that Cyberpunk to me feels more like a Grand Theft Auto game in that it doesn't try to do any of that. It says we've taken the vision of a future and we just kind of make it fun and put you into it and go, what's going to happen? I don't think they're trying to say, if Deus Ex is very much of like trying to have a conversation about the future, I don't think that is this.
Yeah, I think it's that they're being cynical about their future, but that's about it.
That's a really interesting point, and I completely get what you're saying. Yeah. I guess, but there's also an element of, and you guys could disagree with me, I feel like the conversation around GTA, now that you've brought it up, in recent years has been a lot of like, okay, GTA 5 was 7 years ago, and 7 years ago, you could just about get away with a carbonated soft drink called Sprunk, or a fake social media site called Life Invader with a fake Mark Zuckerberg whose head gets blown up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But in 2020, when people ask about what GTA 6 could and would be, the stopping point for a lot of people in that conversation is that where do you go? Where do you take it? And what room is there left for cynicism in a world with, where Donald Trump becomes president? No, I hope that doesn't hurt anyone's feelings, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And people saying like the GTA brand and sort of sense of humor and outlook on the world is old.
Yeah.
In antiquated in some respects, and while applying that cynicism and outlook to a fictional future, is something that no one's ever done before, and so I still think there's room for CD Projekt Red to explore it. And don't get me wrong, I think the idea of there being dildos around every corner is kind of fucking funny. Like I dig that, but there's also a lot of it that just comes off as sort of like. One person I heard in a podcast describing the world described it as mile wide, inch deep.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And I wonder if there's an element of that go.
But this is the weird thing, right? It is, but I think it isn't if you're just on the main storyline, and that's the key. And that's where I kind of said that. Maybe, just maybe, this game didn't need to be that open world, because if that's where the depth is, would it be a better game? Would it be a better experience not having that open world? Okay, now when I say not an open world, I don't mean like specifically linear, but let's take as an example God of War, where there's hubs, right? What if the whole city's not fucking open to you, but guess what? Chinatown is a fucking hub, or Japantown, whatever it is a hub. And you go to that hub, and then as you progress in the story points you to the next hub. Right? Like
it's an interesting idea.
Because God of War still had those RPG fucking elements, and I even thought that potentially in God of War they could have taken those RPG elements further and wider and broader, but it's still I just kind of feel that like Yeah, there was a time when every game was coming out as an open world game, and I looked at it and I'd be like, why?
Do you know what's also fascinating about that?
Yeah.
And Jonesy might be able to relate to this and comment on like how it could or could not apply to Cyberpunk, is that The Witcher 3 was an open world game and you could go wherever you wanted at whatever time. But what The Witcher 3 also did was sort of level gate or difficulty gate areas and the quests you get and where they send you to essentially create fake hubs. Like where the main story goes is where you go, and the side quests you pick up are the ones that happen around that main story. And you're usually siphoned off into areas of what is a broader open world that you can freely explore. But like you start off in wherever, and then you go to Novigrad, and then you end up in Skellige and blah, 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 blah. And they felt like areas that you spent, 20 hours here, 20 hours here, 20 hours here. I wonder, Jonesy, do you think a Cyberpunk had approached that and maybe siphoned off certain areas in a more like hard and fast way that maybe eased the pressure on the game that is causing some of the bugginess or the performance issues? Would that have worked, or would it have lost? Like, would Night City lose its appeal when you can't get on a motorbike and rip around wherever you want?
I think it's a really good. I think it's a good point. And if they could have done that, I think it probably would have been a good thing to do. However, I think the execution, I struggle to see how that would have worked.
There.
Because, for example, when you start the game in the prologue, you are actually sealed off. You can't leave the area you're in because you are in lockdown because of like stuff that's gone on.
Is it a pandemic?
Well, not like that. But like you're in. They have police cordons that stop you leaving an area, and so you can't go anywhere you want to go. The problem, of course, I think with this is as they would have opened up the city, like they used to do with GTA games when they used to say like the bridge is down and then the bridge has been fixed.
Yeah.
The problem they still have is you end up with a game whereby you can go wherever you want, like halfway through the game, and so they still have the problem with the bugs and everything. It's an interesting idea to kind of go the other route and to say, I think more like Chris was saying, rather than a Witcher game where you're massaged into going to certain hub areas, if they effectively just said, no, you're now here. You can now go here. You can even fast travel maybe, so that maybe you have to take some form of transport to get from one place to another, and you are in a limited area that feels less limited. I think that would be a good way to have gotten around it. But I wonder the ire of the audience to say like,
I mean,
I wanted an open world game. Like,
maybe I'm in the minority there. I don't know.
I think you're probably. Like,
but it just kind of seems like
that. I prefer games that are more like putting you in an area and pushing you along.
Give me more focus than a broader kind of generalization. But it's almost like
which game did it brilliantly?
Yeah,
The Last of Us Part 2. Felt open worldy, had a linear story and a push. I mean, you could have gone back if you wanted, but actually,
no, you couldn't.
You were on a journey.
No, you couldn't go back.
Well, in some of the areas, you could like go.
Yeah,
you could kind of go from the start of a level to the end of a level, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd say. Anyway, but
you couldn't go
just the amount of stuff that you can do in Night City as a fully open world city, it's not. It's nothing that a fully open world caters to. Like, yes, like you could walk around and there's help the police take this guy, but you could do that in a hub.
Yeah, I mean, for sure you could, and you could have more specific, like these occurrences only happen in this hub, and then when you go to another hub, you never get a repeat of the same one because you're in a new hub, and then
I don't know. I could just see the comments on this fucking video now. It's like, anyway.
I think if it's clear, and I hope it. I know I like. Certainly, the couple of questions I just asked you guys, that we're exploring the fringes of like what this game is and what it could have been and what it should have been and so on and so forth. But like if this was just that you two both have a lot of positives. As you
I think as it stands, and especially because I haven't encountered the bugs, I'd say this is still probably the most fun I've had with a game this year. So this is probably my game of the year. It could change,
Could change. Jonesy, is it yours?
So it's not my game of the year as it stands. I think it's. I can see a lot of promise for it. I'm excited to play more of it. I'm super excited to see a patch that comes in about 3 months' time, and hopefully like a PlayStation 5 upgrade version. I'm really keen for that. But again, I don't want to be the guy that's too forgiving, but I can see you take the game exactly as it is, you patch out the bugs, you give me a graphical update, and I think it will be incredible. even with like the issues around what you do in the open world, etc., etc., etc. But no, for me, it's not my game of the year. It can't be at the moment. It's too. There's too much wrong with it. There's too much that needs sort of focus. Cleaning up.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've been going now for like over 2 hours. Are you boys?
Let's fucking go. If anyone fucking complains about me always trying to cut us off before 2 hours, fuck off.
I'm glad we let that run its course.
Yeah, me too.
It's like if there were a game this year that deserved that treatment, with all due respect to the other big games of the year, it probably was this. Like,
yeah. Oh, dude, there's so much more I could talk about as well. But I think like we've done the stuff we need to talk about.
Maybe, and you guys have indulged me in my devil's advocating. So, I appreciate it.
I think if it's an after dark,
you
we
only
all would
fall
have had
so
to
far
play it.
Sorry, Matt, I don't mean to talk over you, but you fall further by climbing higher, and I feel like they've climbed incredibly high, and it makes it easier and easier to fall in a lot of areas. But I think they've done a very impressive, astounding job. But yeah, I mean, maybe give it, if they'd have had an extra 6 months, if they'd have had no COVID, there's a whole load of things we could have said.
Who knows?
Sorry to bring it back, but I kind of disagree with that. I think regardless of what happened, their blueprint for this game is still a Fallout blueprint. But you'll always get a Cyberpunk version of a Fallout game. I don't think that COVID had anything to do with the fact that this game is not pushing the medium in any single way.
Oh, I see what you mean. I meant more
other
like
than maybe
the technical issues and the DMCA stuff and the bugs. I think if they'd had not had working from home and all that sort of stuff, I think we wouldn't have seen those sorts of problems. But I mean, I've got no idea. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just giving them.
Tell you what, lads. I'm really looking forward to playing that video game.
Are you?
Good. I genuinely am. I think it looks really cool, and I'm really excited to see it for myself.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think that's the key here, right? Is you do have to kind of, a lot of these times, especially when all the reviews are in such a weird kind of space, you just have to try it for yourself.
But look, we need to move on because we've been talking about Cyberpunk a lot. So last night or Thursday night, as we are recording this on Friday and we go up on Friday, was the Game Awards 2020. And of course, it was a bit of a weird one because Jeff had to present that all on his own for the large part and with a whole bunch of people video calling in and I guess like a fake audience. I don't know. They had loads of clapping sounds and cheering, but
I don't know what that was.
They never showed the audience. Like, I don't know if it was a live record, like a live streamed audience, or if it's just...
It was just the stage hands that were busy recording him, just like three people in the background clapping.
But they did, they got through it. They did a good job, and it was an enjoyable Game Awards, one of which Jamie and I streamed over on my Twitch channel at SuperShow Jonesy. So we watched it till 3 a.m, which is why I slept in and then didn't get up in time to record this podcast. But thank you for everyone who came and watched that along with us. So couple of things that we would like to go through from the Game Awards, which we'll keep it relatively brief because, like I said, we've already been going.
I think we're going to have to do it as like fucking rapid fire.
Pretty much. So there was there's a little bit of controversy before the show even happened because there was a player's choice where you could vote and get your Game of the Year in, and it was won, we found out before the Game Awards, by Ghosts of Tsushima. A very good game, obviously PlayStation exclusive, which released earlier this year. The controversy around this was more around the fact that The Last of Us Part 2 was ahead in the poll for this because Jeff Keighley and Game Awards in general were posting, this is the game that's ahead. This is the game with the more votes. These are who through to the next round, etc., etc. And Last of Us Part 2 was in the lead. Neil Druckmann, director of The Last of Us Part 2, then tweeted, but to be fair to him, he later said it was a joke, basically saying, come on, guys, get out there and vote for The Last of Us Part 2 because they were neck and neck at one point with Ghost of Tsushima. And they did pull ahead and they were in a comfortable lead. There was then a reaction from the Ghost of Tsushima crowd who came and in large numbers of people, I can only imagine, the number of people who voted on this must have been pretty epic, but voted for Ghost of Tsushima in order to give it a pretty comfortable win in the Player's Voice Award for Game of the Year. So Ghost of Tsushima won. I have a little bit of a cynical view on this. I think there was a lot of people that didn't necessarily play either of those games, but who had a bit of a reactionary take on the fact they didn't want The Last of Us Part 2 to win, and so voted for, admittedly, another very good game. But I could be completely wrong about that.
Man,
did you guys want to?
No, it just blows my mind. We spoke about this on our WhatsApp group, but it's almost as if you don't know how a vote works.
Me? No, because I'm sorry.
It's like,
your game of the year is not the same.
But it's not game of the year. It's player's voice.
Yeah, but of game of the year, like player's voice for game of the year.
Yeah, sure.
It's
but
not beating out
even
a game
more so,
you didn't
it's like, hey, players, what's your game of the year? And then a bunch of people said, oh, well, it's The Last of Us. And a bunch of people said, no, it's not. It's Ghost of Tsushima. And then Ghost of Tsushima won. It's like, this is...
But that's not what happened.
That's voting.
You suggested that voting was fine if someone voted for something they haven't played, have no idea about which is better.
Hold on, that's speculation on your part.
And you are not allowed to take that stance as the person of the three of us who takes user reviews on Metacritic the most seriously. You are not allowed to have a take about people voting on things when they haven't played the game.
But no, because the thing I have about user reviews on Metacritic is it kind of works out often because so many people give it.
Let's see if it works out. I'm going to open up Metacritic and see how user reviews, quote unquote, work out. I'm typing in The Last of Us.
But you get so many people.
There it is, 93. Oh, it's a 5.7.
Oh, okay, that's bullshit. What are they doing?
That really worked out.
But hold on, because
hold on.
Metacritic's
again,
different.
You would
because
say
that's
that
a review.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me just. Metacritic's different because that's people going, this is a good game, and then you've got people going, this is a bad game. That's what they're doing.
It's almost as if you don't know how aggregation works.
The player's voice thing is not saying this is a good game, this is a bad game. It's just people going, this is my game of the year. So people have gone on there, as Chris said, to vote for Ghost of Tsushima, even though they probably haven't played it, some of them.
But that's your speculation.
That's my speculation. Do you disagree with it? You don't think that's what happened? I think that's definitely
I think it's entirely possible that happened, but the point of the matter is it's perfectly within the bounds of what is acceptable within that vote. That vote, Yes, that vote panned out exactly as it panned out. I promise you, there was no collusion with Russia. This is how the rules of the vote were set out, and this is how it panned out. And guess what? They asked the players to have a voice about what game they thought was game of the year, and at one stage it was The Last of Us Part 2, and then it became Ghost. That's how a vote works, dude.
I'm gonna wager that more people voted for Ghost of Tsushima than even played Ghost of Tsushima.
I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But
I don't know. There was a million votes already cast.
Hold on, Jamie. Are you still on Metacritic?
I am.
Can you maybe check out the Metacritic score for Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's quickly.
Because usually Metacritic works out for Jonesy. So let's.
So the critics, the critics leveled out that Ghost of Tsushima was an 83 out of 100.
Decent,
which,
good score.
Really solid. It's worth noting that users really liked Ghost of Tsushima. It's a 9.2 out of 10. Universal acclaim.
So it's almost as if the critical reception of it is doubled, therefore putting Ghost of Tsushima in the lead over The Last of Us Part 2.
As I just said, Metacritic is not saying what is your favorite. It's saying, is it good, is it bad? And a lot of people, in fact, a lot of people were, and probably rightfully so, were annoyed at the low scores that Tsushima was getting.
It's also worth noting that according to Metacritic users whose passion for Ghost of Tsushima just overflowed, they've actually made it on Metacritic the second best PlayStation 4 game of all time.
Wow!
Ahead of the likes of God of War, The Witcher 3, The Last of Us Remastered, Bloodborne, excuse me.
Bloodborne! Oh! I look into Jamie's Pornhub history.
That is not good. God. That's a horrible one to get on a fucking podcast.
Bloodborne.
But what I was going to say,
Bloodborne. Jamie, what do you use as lube?
Look, I did it on purpose so we'd have a keyword.
Blood porn,
okay,
yes.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to at this stage.
I'm going to write that down so I don't.
But what I was going to say was that all those games can suck a dick because the people have spoken. Ghost of Tsushima is better.
Yeah.
But what's weird about this is Ghost of Tsushima. I have not played Ghost of Tsushima. For everything I've seen and heard and read about it, it's a very good game. Like, it's a fantastic game.
It's a legitimately very good game. Yeah.
So it gets weird because
hold on. What are you trying to say? Are you saying it's weird that a legitimately good game won Game of the Year? Are you saying it's weird that a game that was not wrapped up in any kind of controversy, for the most part, ended up getting the Player's Voice Award. Is this what you're
I'm saying that it's weird that a very good game is kind of taken away from having its actual, in effect, you can't appreciate the game for what it is.
Right.
If it becomes a political instrument.
I think sorry.
Because you try, like, people, that's a very good game that has become mired in like a bit of a battle. Because when it, not only now, but when it came out, because when it came out, there was this whole thing between Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima, and people going online to say Ghost of Tsushima is amazing, Last of Us Part 2 is trash. Like, Last of Us Part 2 wasn't trash. Like, we've all played it, we all know it wasn't. But there were people who said it was. So it kind of, you've almost taken away from the people who made Ghosts what that game actually was, because you've made it a political thing for you in 2020, which is, I feel like that takes away from that game.
I get that. But
outside of the battle with The Last of Us Part 2, if they try and release a Ghost of Tsushima 2 and there's no Last of Us on the horizon, are you going to have a whole load of people who go, oh, okay, I didn't really play the first one, so I'm probably not going to pick up the second one. And then they kind of get a bit of a bit of hit the real world and realize that their game was used in a slightly wonky way. Like, it just feels a bit odd to me, but maybe I'm wrong. I tweeted out and a lot of people replied to me that they really liked Ghost of Tsushima and they thought it was Game of the Year, so fair play to them.
Yeah, it's funny that.
But let's move on, because we were going to do this quickly and we've taken forever.
No, that was the one that I had to kind of like get involved in. But yeah,
No, fair enough.
Let's go for it.
There was some key game announcements and updates that we saw. So Sea of Solitude, the director's cut.
Oh, I don't know if we need to go through every single one of these. When I put the word key in there, I didn't, just because I listed.
I'll pick out my favourite then.
I listed
my favourite.
I listed every single game that was even like mentioned. So
rapid fire this shit. Yeah.
I'm going to rapid fire.
You can do all of them if you want to. If you want to, like,
I won't do all of them.
If you want to Tommy gun them, Jonesy.
I'm going to pick out. I'm going to pick out some select ones.
Machine Gun Jonesy.
Sephiroth is coming to Smash Bros. Everyone's super excited about that because Smash Bros is one of the greatest games ever made, as everyone knows. Perfect Dark is from the Initiative. I don't know if that was already called Perfect Dark, but they sort of did the reveal.
Just rumored.
It was called Perfect Dark. Jamie mentioned yesterday as we were watching.
That could be a big one, boys. That could be pretty fucking.
It's a pretty big deal.
There's big.
And it looks. This what we only saw CG stuff yesterday, but I like what they're doing with it so far. And a perfect Dark game coming out in this gen sounds.
But this is the great thing about this generation, though, right? You see a CG trailer, but hey, it could be,
and that's in game.
It could be in game. Oh!
The team who worked on Left 4 Dead have made Back 4 Blood, and it says identical, but it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a sort of Monster Mash take on Left 4 Dead. Lots of blood and oversaturation. Looks a lot of fun.
We've got another one for the list.
Yeah.
Back 4 Blood.
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 Back 4 Blood. Whatever, however you want to say it. If you didn't have enough Cyberpunk in your life already, you can play I don't know what the car's called. The Quadra.
Quadra, yeah.
The Quadra from Cyberpunk is coming to Forza Horizon 4, of which you can play, as Jamie informed me yesterday, on Xbox Game Pass. So get your hands on that.
Well worth playing.
December. Hell yeah. There were so many announcements yesterday. It was kind of insane. We have a little look at Dragon Age, didn't we? A little brief peek.
We did.
But it wasn't much.
Which may or may not just be called Dragon Age, which would be an interesting decision.
I've never played a Dragon Age game, and I think I might like to. I like the visuals that were going on there, but would I be able to jump into it without knowing the story? Who knows?
I tried to play Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age Inquisition. Didn't really vibe with either.
Wow,
fair enough. We had a look at a very snazzy looking game that on balance didn't look that amazing, but I wanted to mention it because it was one of those. It was kind of an odd one because it was no sound, just music. Game called Crimson Desert. It's an MMO made by a South Korean team, which was kind of I think Jeff Keighley even said looks absolutely incredible. And then when we got to look at some of the footage, it was like, okay, it looks good, but it also looks kind of weird, and there's a lot of particle effects going on that make it look a bit jank, but
yeah.
Anyway,
I wasn't really sure what they were trying to communicate with that trailer.
Can I just cut in here because it seems like you are kind of going down the list, which is fine, but you've missed two that I want to talk about.
Oh, go on then.
Which is it's quite an important one, I think, is the Callisto Protocol.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, this was one of the more interesting things of the whole show, I thought. I'll back Chris there.
Yeah. So coming from the people that basically made Dead Space, right?
I thought this was a bit too early to kind of get excited about, if I'm being honest. I mean, the idea of it sounds cool, and it was a CG trailer that didn't really show us.
I think just the fact that they showed off a trailer that, for all intents and purposes, could have been called Dead Space 4 for all we knew. No, but you know what I mean? Like, it oozed Dead Space. But I think it's interesting that Back 4 Blood is basically Left 4 Dead 3, but Valve didn't want to fucking get involved with it, so they were like, Turtle Rock was like, yeah, we'll make it. And then the Callisto Protocol is like, oh yeah, we'll just make another fucking Dead Space, call it something else, but yeah, I think it's fucking cool, dude. Like, this could be a new kind of thing of games coming out of the ashes of studios that we loved and the games that they made.
See, these always go badly. This is why I'm gonna refrain from getting too excited at this point until I see some of how these games look, because I mean, it sounds great. A Dead Space on a moon, on Callisto, which is a moon. So this time you're not in space, you're on a moon. But
Dead Moon.
You didn't see enough.
It has worked before. I will say it has worked before.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and the other one, Jonesy, that I wanted to talk about was Endless Dungeon. A game by Amplitude, which, the reason I bring it up, it's got a really cool little art style, but I think that would be a fucking excellent game to play with you guys, because it seems like some kind of a Diablo-esque, cartoonish kind of a romp, which I would be very interested in playing with you guys.
I would as well. There's a lot of games on here actually that made me think, oh, we could play this. Often because there was a lot of 4-player monster shooter games that were announced in this thing. I think it was Open Road, but Open Road was the procedurally generated road trip. Was that one?
No, so Open Road was the one by Fulbright, that's the Gone Home and Tacoma people. So that's the narrative one. You're thinking of Road 96.
Oh, my bad. Road 90. Oh, there you go. I've even seen it on the list. Road 96. There we go. Disco Elysium, the final cut. Was on there as well. Something I've never played, but like I said, it looks amazing. And
everyone who's played it fucking raves about it.
I can confirm, by the way, that even though they didn't show it at the time or in the trailer because of a marketing deal, it's coming to PlayStation 4 first, but it is coming to Switch and Xbox like a few months after. So that will be on everything by the end of the year.
Yeah, that's cool.
End of next year, I should say.
We also had Vin Diesel playing Vin Diesel in Vin Diesel the Game.
Dude, it was so weird watching that thing live and trying to figure out what the fuck that game was. There was one point, Chris.
Yeah.
I was going to say there's one point, Chris, where I can't remember who said it, maybe someone in chat. We thought they were rebooting Turok with Vin Diesel.
Would have been better, I think, if that's what they'd been doing.
Maybe.
It's actually, I didn't even say it yet, it's actually Arc 2. So Vin Diesel is coming to Arc.
The character animation in that trailer just looked so fucking weird and stiff, which probably leads to why it is Arc 2 and not a Turok game. But yeah, very fucking weird. I think you're going to say because it is Vin Diesel. That's what Vin Diesel's like. Oh, what I love is that Vin Diesel is kind of like sitting at home wearing his wife beater with like his beer guts like hanging out, and because he's let himself go lately. But then he's like in Arc 2, he's like, yeah, just give me the abs and the big arms. And
I found it weird that he looks just like himself. Yeah, maybe that's not weird. Like Johnny Silverhand looks just like Keanu Reeves, but with longer hair. But this looked too much like Vin Diesel from like the early noughties. In that setting, it was weird.
It's just the odd one, but yeah, cool. Arc is a pretty cool game, I've heard, and I'm sure Arc 2 would be enjoyed by people.
As I mentioned, there were quite a few multiplayer monster shooters, and Evil Dead the Game has been announced, which is another one which looks just like Left 4 Dead or Back 4 Blood or whatever you want to say.
Did they? So I didn't watch the awards, but I did watch that trailer. Does that seem like a co-op shooter kind of thing, or like?
Definitely, yeah. So they had multiple. They had Ash from obviously all of the Evil Dead games. Yeah. They then had a Knight, which is obviously from Evil Dead 3, where it goes back in time to medieval. And then they had 2 other characters as well, which I didn't recognize. And it does, to me, that is 4-player co-op versus
that could be cool, dude. And I fucking love Evil Dead, so that's sweet.
Evil Dead is very cool, so that should be good. We have to mention Returnal, getting a date March 19th, because of course Chris famously anti-Returnal because he said it was Soccer Mum the video game.
Yeah, Soccer Mom the video game, starring Karen.
Someone made that joke as well last night in the comments. Yeah.
I'm standing by it. You know what? The game could be really fucking cool, and maybe it could be made even cooler with the fact that you are playing a very generic Soccer Mom. But you still
you've decided you're playing a very generic Soccer Mom.
I haven't decided anything. That's what's on the screen of the trailers and the footage that I've been watching.
Like a woman in her 40s in a spacesuit.
Yeah.
How is she a very generic?
I like that we're also now guessing her age. Why not?
Well, she looks like
clearly a woman in her 40s.
Yeah, clearly a woman in her 40s.
Karen, the 40-year-old Soccer Mom, starring in Returnal.
Something that I wanted to mention because it piqued my interest, although I guess a lot of people might have ignored this one. It Takes Two from Hazelight seemed like a very cool co-op game that when we were watching it, actually, Jamie pointed out that I might want to play with my significant other, and I think it looked very cool. It looked like a very interesting game.
Yeah, that game, I think we all watched the EA press conference earlier in the summer, and like that game didn't make an impression on any of us, if I remember rightly, but seeing some of the gameplay and some of the scenarios and sequences they've cooked up, seeing a bit more of the art style and the tone of that game.
The writing was actually,
it's starting to take shape as something that actually would be very fun to play with someone else, especially if they do sort of a way out style couch co-op. Like they're doing the same thing where you get basically 2 copies of the game with every purchase. So, I think that's
very interesting studio with very interesting games.
And a very interesting frontman.
Yeah.
He made
in his mocap for the awards last
Although
night.
he didn't swear. He didn't say fuck the Oscars this time. Very disappointing.
Did he schnaff up a whole line of Coke, though?
Probably.
No.
He did the whole thing, you're going to love it. It's not like other co-op games. It's the best co-op game you ever played. Jeff, I promise.
He's just Tommy Wiseau, really.
He's the Tommy Wiseau of the games industry.
But although, to be fair, but he looks like he's making another good game. So there you go. Master Chief.
What are you trying to say about
Fortnite? The room? Nothing. I'm not saying a word.
Tommy Wiseau is coming to Fortnite.
Oh, don't. That
Please,
would be great.
I would reinstall it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I would too.
No, Tommy Wiseau is not coming to Fortnite. Master Chief is coming to Fortnite in varying colours. So there you go. What was it you mentioned yesterday, Jamie, about?
I don't think it was varying colours. I think...
Is it like ODST and all that stuff? Like
No. It's just normal Master Chief, but basically they used red versus blue, and actually got So they actually had like a red versus blue sequence in the trailer with like the OG Rooster Teeth voice actors doing a bit.
That's cool.
And I wasn't 100% sure what they were talking about after the fact. Because they interviewed the guy further to elaborate on what was actually happening, but they made reference to like Blood Gulch, like the Halo, the classic Halo Combat Evolved map that much of Red versus Blue, the start of the show took place in, is maybe like coming to Fortnite, and there's going to be some capture the flag mode in it.
Where?
I'm not sure, but basically Master Chief.
Yeah.
Okay. As well as Walking Dead's Daryl, and I have no idea how to say that. Michonne. I don't know. I don't watch Walking Dead, so
yeah. It's funny because Jonesy and I were arguing. Jonesy was claiming that Norman Reedus invaded everything around the time of Death Stranding, and I argued that was just his imagination. And now Norman Reedus, in a roundabout way, is in Fortnite.
There you go. He's invading everything. Because I got called out in the chat for that as well. So I said, typical Jonesy, says Norman Reedus is in everything, can't name anything he's in. Hey, if I was...
Turns out you were just predicting the future. You should have, people just weren't sure what you meant.
But the last thing, reveal that was we sort of took interest in was the Mass Effect teaser trailer, of which Jamie actually pointed out they did announce a couple of weeks earlier. So it wasn't so much of a unknown quantity, but there you go.
But the first time we're seeing stuff.
The first time, we're seeing anything in the way of, visually what they're going for. But I actually pulled up the blog when we were live, and I'll do it again. But so this was last month when they confirmed the existence of the Legendary Edition.
Oh, yeah.
There's a paragraph that says, meanwhile, here at BioWare, a veteran team has been hard at work envisioning the next chapter of the Mass Effect universe, We are in early stages of the project and can't say more just yet, but we're looking forward to sharing our vision for where we'll be going next. And I guess in a roundabout way, they did quote unquote share that vision. It just meant that the words Mass Effect, what was it? Mass Effect will return, or
Mass Effect will return, yeah.
Mass Effect will return.
No, we'll continue.
We'll continue, my bad.
Sorry.
Mass Effect will continue. It was a bit like, yeah, you already told us that.
Yeah. But you see, this is where you've got it wrong, Jamie, because the trailer played, and then it went through space and then to the snowy thing. And then this blue bitch picked up a thing that said N7 on it. And you're like, oh, yeah, cool. And then the title card said Mass Effect will continue. But you've got it wrong. It's not Mass Effect will continue. It's Mass Effect will continue. It's about William Continue and how he kind of picked up the ashes from
the new commander.
Yeah, the new commander.
So
William Continue.
Tell me a story about the Continue.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, let's move on. So, as a surprise to Jamie, not surprise to me because I didn't predict anything, but no Elden Ring and no Silent Hill.
I think that's the biggest news story out of.
Well, then there was none. I don't think you have a story which there wasn't there.
Because I think that Elden Ring just doesn't exist. It's a collective hysteria that we've just manifested. There is no Elden Ring. It doesn't exist. You didn't actually see the trailer. There is nothing going on there. George R.R. Martin is a gardener. Don't expect anything. Nothing's coming out. There's no Elden Ring.
It was
Imagine
funny
if they'd managed to expunge it from the internet as well, so that we couldn't even go back.
I was going to say that's what the funny. They failed because Elden Ring also won the most anticipated game award on the same night.
How?
Dude, the Elden Ring fans are something else.
It wouldn't have won the award had they shown anything at the Game Awards. It was the lack of showing anything which built the anticipation, which allowed it to win.
Well, there you go.
So, okay, let's touch on a couple of the winners to finish off. So, of course, The Last of Us Part 2 won pretty big, taking home the Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Narrative, Best Action Adventure Game, and Best Performance by Laura Bailey for her portrayal of Abby in The Last of Us Part 2.
Interesting.
I am excited after this podcast to go online and look at the reactions specifically for Laura Bailey winning.
You are such a fucking quartering cuck, aren't you?
Should we see if I'm going to see if the Quartering's made any videos about it yet.
Oh, I'm sure he would have. Or
nah, he isn't woken up yet.
Oh right, yeah.
I think all of those wins are completely justifiable for The Last of Us Part 2. Very well done to the team.
I would potentially argue against game direction, but that's probably nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking.
It's also like the classic award show thing of like, you've given it best narrative, you've given it best performance. So you're acknowledging it had the best story and they got the best performances out of their actors. You almost have to give the direction thing. Yeah. Unless you're Ben Affleck, in which case you don't win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, congratulations on making the best film of the year. You win nothing. Go home. Sorry, weird Argo throwback for any film fans out there. I don't know why. Yeah. Okay, anyway.
Moving on. So very good night for The Last of Us Part 2. Yeah. Sorry, Chris, did you want to...
No, I was going to say Ghost of Tsushima got Best Art Direction.
Yeah, I think, and completely justifiably, what an amazing
game. Although that was a fucking tough category.
Yeah.
Right, yes.
But I think you could take any still from Ghost of Tsushima and be like, I could print that out and put it on my wall.
Yeah, it was the game that has got me to mess with the photo mode the most I ever have ever.
Okay, cool. And then Final Fantasy VII Remake got Best Score and Music.
Fucking
I have not played it, so no idea about
that. Such... You know how I knew it was going to win that? When Jamie and I were having our spoiler cast and Jamie said, you know what, Chris? You were right. That fucking One-Winged Angel Sephiroth song fucking slaps. I was like, it's fucking cleaning up at the awards.
They used it during the Smash Bros. Reveal. So, credit where it's due. Game recognized game. Sephiroth.
Sephiroth.
Hades was in quite a few categories, and it did win a couple of awards, rightfully so, in my opinion. It won Best Indie Game and Best Action Game, while Among Us, absolutely fair play to the guys who made Among Us. They won 2 awards last night. I think Best Mobile was one of them, and I can't remember the other award they won for that, but very well done to those guys. What was even more adorable about Among Us winning obviously a game which was released quite a long time ago by a small group of people, I think it's 4 people in total, was the fact that they did their acceptance speeches from what looked like a university bedroom with one of the people of the 4 on a phone, and they were just holding her up.
Not the weirdest acceptance speech of the night, if you believe it.
Wow.
Yeah. No, not as interesting as the woman standing outside the window.
Yes, there was a moment where The Last of Us 2 won for innovation in accessibility, and it's a bloke sitting in front of his computer, like we are now, with a window over his shoulder, a woman standing on the other side of the window, but she's mic'd up as well, and they never explain it.
Social distancing,
they said that they were neighbours. Yeah. So I think what happened was they were in lockdown. She couldn't go in, but to the house because that had breached rules. So she stood outside the window, like you said, mic'd up. But it just looked really strange.
I got to find a video of it. That sounds hilarious.
Chris, I'm sending you a picture now just so you can get an actual like a snapshot of what we mean.
Yes,
but it is a.
You know what that looks like? I mean, fucking hell! Oh my god.
It looks like she was a creepy stalker who's trying to get in through the window.
It looks like she's about to like take out a knife and stab him in the back. That's amazing.
We said as we were watching it, how amazing it would be if she got tackled by like a police officer or something who was like, she's trying to break in. Jeez, but it didn't happen and she was fine.
Do you think it's fair that Among Us won awards in that game came out over a year ago, no? Like technically, didn't it?
I don't think that matters. I don't think that matters. I think...
Well, I don't know, dude. Like they excluded Cyberpunk because it didn't meet the criteria on the other side of it.
It's not even. How could you put Cyberpunk in it when it wasn't even out?
Jeff Keighley.
But I guess what like Chris is saying is like Among Us is a game from 2018. If Among Us was the best, like I forget which awards it even won.
It was best mobile game, and I can't remember the other one. I cannot remember for the life of me.
But like if Among Us, Among Us won the Game Award for Best Multiplayer Game. Right, it came out in 2018. Why wasn't God of War the Game of the Year?
Yeah, exactly.
This year, do you know what I mean?
Or if you take it to
because it didn't hit this year. It's about the success. I think,
but okay. Let me say, if there was a huge thing where like there was a huge wave of like everyone decided to replay Red Dead Redemption 2 this year, and one of the most popular games of the year on Twitch and on YouTube and amongst gamers by every metric was replaying Red Dead Redemption 2, they wouldn't have nominated it for any awards.
I think it would have to have, but it didn't because it didn't. RDR2, if it had been ignored when it came out and then had been picked up and then had gone massive, I think it could have technically won some awards.
I don't know. That's kind of like saying to use the Room reference when it came out and no one gave a shit about it, but now it's this cult classic. It's like now at the Oscars, it's like best cult movie, The Room. It's like, well, I mean, I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I thought it was fair.
It seems a bit weird. I mean, look, then they did say that No Man's Sky won best ongoing game, but then again, the award justifies itself in the title, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because it is specifically for
let's put it this way. Among Us took away an award from a game that might have won, released this year, but just because it just missed it by one bit of thing of popularity, Among Us got it. So let's say the second best game, it could have fucking won. And you know what? It could have turned the fortunes of that team, that company, those devs completely around by getting that.
That's interesting because like that game won't necessarily have a chance next year or the year after. Or whatever.
Yeah, it's just a bit strange to me. Like, but for fair play, Among Us has done wonders this year, especially for people in lockdown and the entertainment on Twitch and whatever. But it just kind of seems a bit, I don't know, just a bit wrong to include it.
Fair play. So like you said, No Man's Sky won best ongoing game, which I think is probably the most justifiable award of the night. Fair play to them for like the amount of time and effort they've put into that game over the years. Fair to them.
Yeah. It was definitely ongoing.
Fall Guys won best community support. Animal Crossing getting a bit stitched up by only winning one award of the night with best family game. Half-Life Alyx, in the least surprising of any of the awards, I think, won best VR AR game.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
I think there was a lot of good games this year. Surprisingly, I didn't think it was going to be as good a year for games in general because of everything that went on.
Yeah, and I feel like on the award side of things, like lots of games got their props. like Hades, like Ghost, like Final Fantasy, like Animal Crossing, like Among Us, like Fall Guys, like they somehow in a roundabout way managed to give a tip of the hat to a lot of the more significant games for various reasons of this calendar year, while also pissing a lot of people off by giving The Last of Us all the important ones.
Yes. Yeah. But hey, I think this has been the longest podcast we've probably ever done. We're pushing about 2 hours and 45 minutes or something, maybe even a little bit over that. So I think we should probably wrap it up right about there, boys. I'm sure we will have more Cyberpunk to talk about in the future. Hopefully we won't let it drag out for as long as we did this time.
The fine folks at home still have to look forward to the day where I come in, having played it, and decide the podcast is all about me and that my important opinion is the one that matters. And
I'm looking forward to that day.
I'll hijack the entire podcast.
And then after that, after a while, and then we've all kind of sufficiently gone enough and hopefully finished the game, then we have a fucking 10-hour spoiler cast on our Patreon.
Then we have a spoiler cast. Then we have the PS5 version when that gets delivered and Jonesy gives us an update. Yeah. Then we have
the DLC.
The first rounds of DLC, which if it's anything like The Witcher, we're going to get at least 2 or 3 really thorough and decent DLC expansions. So look forward to us talking about this game indefinitely.
Yeah, and even then, after all of that, Elden Ring will still not be out. So
very true.
No, it won't. But hey, everyone listening, everyone watching, thank you so much for joining. We are available on podcast platforms across the board and also on YouTube. So maybe if you're watching this on YouTube and you can't watch it one week, maybe check us out on a podcasting platform. Maybe if you listen to it on a podcasting platform and you want to see our little faces and Chris's lovely Cyberpunk lighting setup today, check us out on YouTube. And if you do go to our YouTube channel, leave a comment letting us know that you've made it to the end of this mammoth, gargantuan episode with the very special code word this week, which is blood porn, given to us by the one and only
BLOODPORNE. You have to get the E at the end because it's ye olde porn.
Ye olde blood porn.
Blood porn.
Ye olde blood porn.
Well, I'm glad you wrote it down, Jonesy, because I was trying to remember what we had said, and the only thing that kept on popping in my head, and I knew it was wrong, was blood sperm.
Blood sperm. See, no, that's usually the result of blood porn, but one's the instinct. It's like what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Oh no, you watch the blood porn, and when you're finished watching the blood porn, there's blood sperm. I got you.
Right, exactly.
How grim. But thank you everyone for joining us.
Are you kink shaming me right now? Like,
I am.
Hold on, Jonesy. How dare you not let us have a 3-hour podcast? What is wrong with you?
Well, it's me this week. It's me holding off, not letting you guys break that.
Alex, he's no longer just the fence. He's also the killjoy.
Killjoy, Alex.
The buzzkill.
Sitting on the fence, killing all the joy.
Wow.
Thank you also to everyone who's listening to us on PaisleyRadio.com, Thursdays at 10 p.m. You probably won't even hear this on Paisley Radio because we're probably overrun by so much.
They're just going to have to cut us after 2 hours.
They'll just have to do a hard cut. But yes, you will see here /us from us next week, a very special episode because it will be our 52nd podcast since we started.
Oh my God.
A full year. That's a year of podcasts. So
the big 01.
Yes.
Holy shit.
And with that, boys, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for letting me host this one.
Thank you.
No, Jonesy, thank you.
We will see you all again next time.
Hopefully. Maybe not.
See ya. Bye.